EWBSX, the cyberbully. Nicotine for your ears.
You may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Astrolabe. Happy Thursday to you. What a pre-show. Cyberbully was in his bag this morning. Oh, man, make sure you guys download EWBSX. Go get yourself some musical white pills pumped into your ear every single day. Available on the Apple and Android app stores. I don't know what you Android people do. I just know the Apple App Store. Welcome, everyone. Shout out to Mr. Doom, to Dr. Doom Guy, getting us started with 5 gifted subs this morning. Pale Morning Dude and Jeff Accordion sending in some kicks. Jeff Accordion with 500 kicks has tipped the fucking streamer. Yes, please. Please do tip your streamer. I forgot to, maybe I should put the tip link in there. The other one's still not working. We got to get through the end of the month. And let me put tip link. So I actually have to copy it from over here. Got to get through the end of the month, and then the little automation will work again. So for the time being, it'll still work. If you use tips.kingpill.com, you'll still, you pay through Ko-fi, it'll still get the money to me. So it accomplishes that. It just won't play a little automation here on screen. And it won't automatically add to the tip goal. Speaking of the tip goal, make sure you're signed up at forum.kingpill.com. We have one last potential chance for a drawing here this month. And I will be wiping the slate clean for tomorrow. So if we hit the tip goal today, I will do a drawing of all the people who enter their names over on forum.kingpill.com. And it's just a Google spreadsheet. Just give me something to call you and a way to contact you. We'll do a drawing, and the winner will win 10% of the total tip take for the day sent to them in the form of a digital gift card of their choice. Shout out to, I don't know how you pronounce this, Mongobloid, I'm going to guess it's Mongobloid. Has followed over here, said his first time watching on Kick. Welcome, sir. You're a patriot joining us over here. This is where the real patriots hang out. The Kick live chat in the Astrolabe. The single best live chat on any show on the internet. It's the perfect pace. It's not too fast. It's not slow and boring. And it is full of absolute patriots, some of the smartest people, cleverest posters ever. The show would not be what it is if it was not for you guys. So please do come over to Kick. I know the Kick app isn't the greatest. I know it's kind of weird. Maybe you only have one show. Maybe you're not an Asmongold appreciator, so you only have one show that you watch on Kick. Thank you to all of you who have incorporated it.
If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Mongobloid is subscribed. A double patriot. Thank you, sir, for subscribing. One of the great things about Kick and the reason why I continue to use it is because it is the best channel for monetizing a stream. Because Kick only takes 5%. So if you're gifting a sub on YouTube or you're sending a Rumble rant on Rumble, those platforms are taking like 30 to 50% of the cut. But Kick only takes 5%. That's why I am holding out here. How much is a Kick? I haven't figured out exactly what the Kick exchange rate is. I think it might be it's like a cent. So I think $100 Kick is $1, or maybe $100 Kick is 10 cents. I'm not sure exactly what that comes out to, but I know that the gifted subs and the subs, they count for my Kick revenue is $4.74, and then Stripe takes a cut as well, so it comes out to being something like $4.40 or something per Kick. Which is a significant improvement over YouTube. YouTube would be 30% of that. I assume crypto platforms take nothing but spread. I haven't even looked into the crypto platforms, honestly. Like it's maybe kind of interesting, but that seems like a really far cry. There's some interesting ones out there that have some, where you basically are you're getting like a Satoshi a second or something, So someone who's watching is actively their Satoshis are actively being drained while they're watching, but it's such a small amount that you don't really notice, and it makes it a lot more frictionless. It just means that you have to have like a Bitcoin wallet set up, and you have to integrate the wallet and all of that, and that's kind of a heavy lift for most people. Most people just want to open a platform and just watch. So maybe eventually we will get to the point where those sorts of things can become more feasible. 500 Kicks cost $7.50. Okay, so my guess is that the extra $2.50 there is probably the Kick charges extra to cover the platform fee, that the in-app purchase fee that the App Store will charge. Because if you're sending money through the app directly, Dave, my president, and the gayest man ever.
Never stop winning.
So true, Dave. So true.
Dave Johnson is the gayest person to ever walk this green earth.
Here is the biggest, gayest man in the world.
Wow. So gay.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you, sir. I don't even remember what I was talking about before, so let's just get started. We have got... first of all, a very late entry into the stack today. Our propaganda master here has sent us over something freshly out of the oven, fresh out of the content production oven. Nick Fuentes destroys everything. I've seen this clip go. I haven't actually watched whatever the original clip is from this. So I don't know any of the lore behind this, but we have got ourselves a pseudo edit of it. Here we go.
Hi. Oh my God! What are you doing?
A new life begins!
Yes!
Get over here!
Let me go, Ralph! Stop, please!
Destroy everything! Obliterate what makes us one. Destroy everything!
Oh, man!
Oh my God!
Oh, God bless the internet. That is incredible. Oh, man, nothing like a little hate read on a Thursday morning. Absolutely remarkable. So is that... How much of this is fake? I mean, there's a certain point where you could tell, but, I could believe that the first little bit, my assumption is like the first 10 seconds or so is actually real. This was the actual recorded interaction. Obviously, you could kind of tell a little bit where only the first clip is real. Okay, that's why I wasn't sure if the first clip was real, or if the whole thing was fake. That's incredible. So good. Thank you, man. Make sure you guys show up on Saturday for what promises to be an incredible pseudowave. He popped in real quick to catch that clip, but he said he's hard at work right now. in the production studio, getting it ready to go. So I'm looking forward to that. I think the frog monster might have been fake. Maybe, I don't know. You know, it's kind of a crazy world we live in. You should see some of the shit that Superior B has been DMing me lately. The man has access to some of the most incredibly schizo corners of the internet, and he keeps me apprised of what's going on over there. And holy shit, man, I saw a Bigfoot thing that I'm just gonna withhold judgment, and I'm just gonna behold what's in front of me. Doom guy, alpha male alert. Thank you, Doom Guy, for the $100 tip. What a man. You, sir, have made your presence known with a bang. I appreciate you, sir. All right, Pseudomaster's back to the wave. Frogs just do that, yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Let's get started here. Now, there's some lore. There is some lore to this one. I had completely forgotten that this existed, which is wild to think about, given how much of my life this played this probably had a daily presence in my life for the majority of the time I was in college, and for a few years after that, and then somehow it was just completely wiped from my brain until this blessed thing called the internet brought it back to me. Lost Meme Archive on X is a patriot, because they reminded me of this absolute all-timer, glorious banger that has taken up so much of my mind in the past. I present to you a true, exquisite work of art.
Yes, hello, it's me, a black guy.
It just keeps going.
We don't want no bitches, 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 get out. We don't want no bitches, bitches, bitches out.
Nigga Bob. Okay, gotta click ahead here just a little bit. We played this out already. Oh! What's incredible to think about is these guys have got to be like, I don't know, this guy here looks like he's probably about college age or so at the time, 18 to 22. So this is from 2008. That means that this guy here is like a dad in his 40s now. Oh man, Big Booty Bitches from 2008. So the lore here for me, in college, this is one of the ones that my roommate and I discovered, and it was right about that time. It was 2009, 2010, something like that. And so we would just randomly play it for each other, just in the middle of the day, be like working on homework or whatever, and someone would just start it, just play it, and may or may not have turned into like some I don't know, whether you call it like a dance session or a mosh session. And then I have really distinct memories of driving to Taco Bell at, midnight or something like that, stocking up for probably like $8, bought more food than I could imagine for like $8, and then drove back to the dorm with the windows down, that song blasting, and both of us singing along with it. And every time the one guy would go, ooh, we would stick our heads out the window and do that. Just so many good memories. I may have amassed like $50,000 in useless student debt, but when I think about experiences like that, I'm like, do I really regret it? Okay, now speaking of nostalgia, this one, here's one that we can all remember and relate to.
One of the reasons Mr. Trump is a frontrunner, Republican voters say, is because they like the fact that he is not bought and paid for by wealthy donors. Mr. Trump has repeatedly said that the $100 million you've raised for your campaign makes you a puppet for your donors. Are you?
No, absolutely not. People are supporting me because I have a proven record of conservative leadership, where I cut taxes $19 billion over 8 years. We shrunk the state government workforce. We created a climate that led the nation in job growth 7 out of 8 years. We were one of 2 states to go to AAA bond rating. People know that we need principle-centered leadership.
AAA bond rating. This is what there's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys to the political commentary posting space, and many of them have no idea what the Republican Party used to be like. This was the consensus leading candidate. It was a shoo-in for the nomination. And he's sitting here talking about... Even my fucking eyes are glazing over. Can you imagine the average person listening to this? This is what we used to have to deal with in Republican politics. And look at him. He's even taller than Trump, or at least he is the way the stage is set up here. So visually, you have the... looks like you've got... Let me see, get this straight on shot. There you go. Look, visually, it makes Trump look kind of like the upstart, He's lower down, he's punching up, which actually ended up working out very much in his favor. But he's literally, you can tell, the question is, are you a puppet for your donors? Of course not. Let me rattle off a bunch of obviously memorized talking points that have been supplied to me by the representatives of my donors.
That led the nation in job growth 7 out of 8 years. We were one of 2 states to go to AAA bond rating. People know that we need principle-centered leadership, a disruptor to go to Washington, D.C. The one guy that had some special interest that I know of...
Disruptor! Jeb Bush was casting himself as a disruptor who was going to go shake things up in Washington, D.C. Jeb fucking Bush. The dude who got his career start doing money laundering for Central American cartels. That Jeb Bush, he was going to go enter the White House and be a disruptor.
That tried to get me to change my views on something that was generous and gave me money was Donald Trump. He wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally.
Trump's face. Watch Trump's face here.
Trump. He wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally false.
You wanted it, and you didn't get it because I was
it.
opposed to casino gambling before,
promise I would've
during,
gotten it.
and after. And that's not...
What a response. What a response. That's totally not true. And he's not offended that you would insinuate he did something like that. He's offended that you would insinuate that he tried and failed to do that. That's what he's offended by. He's like, I would have had no problem. You know how I know he's a puppet for his donors? Because I used to be one of his fucking donors. I've been behind the curtain. He's like, if that was actually the case, I would have gotten it done because I know how this shit works, and I've bought off many a politician in my life.
I'm not going to be bought by anybody.
I promise, if I wanted it, I would have gotten it.
No way, man.
Believe me.
Nope.
I know my people.
Not even possible.
I know my people.
I know my people.
Is there anything else you want to say about this?
No, I just will tell you that, Jeb made the statement. I'm not only referring to him. A lot of money was raised by a lot of different people that are standing up here. And the donors, the special interests, the lobbyists have very strong power over these people. I'm spending all of my money. I'm not getting any. I turned down so much. I could have right now from special interests and donors, I could have double and triple what he's got. I've turned it down. I've turned down last week $5 million from somebody.
Not only is it like you hear this all the time, like, oh, I am the little guy. I'm not corporately sponsored. I've turned down. He takes it to the next level. No, if I wanted to, I would have so much more than they do. All those big corporate interests, they're begging. They're begging to have me. No, I don't even need them. It's not just that I can self-fund my own campaign. It's that if I was going to play your game, I could beat you at your game too.
So I will tell you, I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this, I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing.
You got, according to to what you said on one of the talk shows, you got Hillary Clinton to go to your wedding.
That's
because
true.
you gave her money.
True.
Maybe it works for Hillary Clinton. It doesn't work for anybody on this stage.
I was a businessman. I got along with Clinton.
Someone please help me. Someone, please, I'm on the ropes. Someone, anyone, you want to step in? You want to take some punches for a minute? Trump's like, yeah, see, you're proving my point.
Along with everybody. Yeah. That was my job, to get along with people.
But the simple fact is...
Excuse me. 1 second.
No.
I didn't want to...
Jeff, Donald, you cannot take...
More energy tonight. I like that. Look,
I was asked the question.
I didn't want...
Just the absolute kill shot.
If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Bobby Ballbags, thank you, sir, for the 5 gifted subs. Just complete and utter thorough destruction. He is mogging him to death on the stage. Jeb is like, someone please step in and help me. And he's like, no, Jeb. Shh. Oh, yeah. More energy today. Good job, buddy. And look at that smile. Look at that smile. Never in the history of politics has there been a greater career ender than Donald Trump. What, like one single action that just ended someone's career, like Donald Trump calling him low energy Jeb. Just thoroughly, comprehensively, permanently nuked the shit out of him.
With people.
But the simple fact is...
Excuse me. 1 second.
No.
I didn't want to...
Jeff, Donald, you cannot take...
More energy tonight. I like that. Look.
I was asked the question.
I didn't want... It was my obligation as a businessman to my family, to my company, to my employees, to get along with all politicians. I got along with all of them, and I did a damn good job in doing it. Go ahead.
So, he supports Pelosi. He supports Schumer. He supports Clinton.
Got along with everybody.
And when he asked Florida to have casino gambling, we said no.
Wrong.
We said no, and that's the simple fact.
He did the meme.
Don't make things up, Jeff.
Don't cut me off.
Come on. Don't make things up.
Oh, man. That was what the Republican Party used to be like. You want to talk about a craven group of not even beautiful losers. Ugly, misshapen, totally low energy losers. The only reason, the singular sole only reason why we have anywhere close to the political wins that we've got today is because of one single man. Donald Trump. Donald Trump has single-handedly remade the Republican Party. It is so different now than it used to be. And all of the pressure is toward it continuing to change in the same direction. You may never doom. It's not allowed. You are not allowed to doom. Never ever black pill. And you might say, oh, well, that was Trump back then. But, you know, he doesn't have the same game again. And as great Patriot poster Logan Clark Hall said, I did a masterful job, by the way, of vamping through that. That was difficult. Vamping while I was rearranging some tabs here and keeping it straight. I'm proud of myself. Master Patriot poster Logan Clark Hall said, after all this time, Trump still has his fastball. Listen to this.
Are you considering relocating relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C. once the lease is up. States like Texas, Ohio, and Florida.
Well, the best man to tell you that is the man standing right over here. You heard that question? With those beautiful ears of yours? He's got great hearing, you know, he's got super hearing.
Trick of the trade, sir.
How does he do it? If you're not watching the clip, like, you got to see, this is one you got to, I know some people like to listen to the podcast. Just, if you're listening to the podcast version of this later on, and you don't know the context of this clip, just look up a picture of Jared Isaacman. Jared Isaacman, the new NASA administrator. Literally one single person on the planet could pull this off. And that man is seated at the Resolute desk. Every single person that looks at Jared Isaacman goes, holy shit, that dude's got ears, man. But it's kind of like in a proper professional setting. You're not going to be like, dude, how'd you get ears like that? Or, you know, like, wow, you must be able to hear a mouse fart across the county. And Trump just says it. Manga Blade says he can hear tomorrow. He can hear colors. Trump just says it. Just straight up calls it out. This guy's got great hearing. And he does it in a way that he manages to pull it off because of who he is. He does it in a way that doesn't, like, I mean, it makes for a massively viral clip, but Isaacman just rolls with it because he recognizes that it is an affectionate move by Trump. Because Trump wouldn't actually do something like this directly in this environment. He wouldn't just randomly call out someone hostile to him and go after him like that in this sort of an environment. The fact that he is doing that, it's like bros ribbing on other bros in public, like kind of a little elbow to the ribs. He recognizes it as an affectionate move. Endearment, yes, thank you, Magoo. Endearment. Bro navigates via echolocation. Yeah. He just can't. There's no one like him. Nobody would be sitting in the fucking Oval Office and be like, hey, I'm going to call out how that guy's got big fucking ears. Only Trump can do it. Only Trump can get away with it. Just incredible. Incredible scenes. Now, speaking of space, SpaceX's board has approved a new compensation package for Elon Musk ahead of its record-setting IPO. Now, Musk is known for his, let's say, incentive-laden compensation packages. This one takes the cake. Listen to this. The package includes, first, 200 million super voting shares if SpaceX hits a $7.5 trillion valuation. And, like, that's $7.5 trillion. It's like, okay, well, I mean, the way things are going, I suppose I could see at some point they probably will, you know, if they hit their goals. Yeah, $7.5 trillion, that's insane. But yeah, I guess. And if they get to $7.5 trillion, then by all means, give him 200 million super voting shares. But it's not just hitting a $7.5 trillion valuation. It is also establishing a permanent Mars colony with at least 1 million people. I mean, if he establishes a permanent Mars colony with at least 1 million people, then fucking SpaceX is going to hit a $7.5 trillion valuation. But this is, like, you could get 200 million shares if you put the entire population of Fort Worth onto Mars. Has to be the most insane pay package tranche ever written. This is from Reddit Lies. The entire population of Fort Worth onto Mars. There's one man in the world who could call out the NASA administrator's large ears in the Oval Office and get away with it. There's one man on Earth who would actually propose and agree to this sort of pay package and have a reasonable possibility of actually attaining it. Like, does anybody really doubt that that's going to happen? I mean, like, leaving aside, you know, he gets killed or something, you know, like, Assuming that he lives into old age and completes his professional career, does anyone really doubt that he could pull it off? If anyone could, it would be him. There's also an additional 60.4 million shares if SpaceX reaches certain valuation goals and operates data centers in space, delivering 100 terawatts of compute. 100 terawatts! Number 3, Elon Musk will not receive a single share if the company fails to reach the board's valuation targets. Not a single share. Elon Musk has received a salary from SpaceX of $54,080 per year since 2019. You can think what you want about Elon Musk, but you cannot debate the idea that he does not have skin in the game. Unlike anybody else. Like Elon Musk and Donald Trump are the two most skin in the game men on the planet. It's just wild. And like, when you think about Elon casting these visions of what he wants to accomplish, you think about his history. Like where he's gone, and I'm fully aware that Elon is not just like a self-made, man. Like obviously he's a front man for powerful interests, but he had to be worthy of being that front man for powerful interests. It couldn't just be anyone. It had to be him. He put himself in the position where he could be that. So the goals that he's accomplished that are, you think about the what do you call it? Optimus, which is very clearly moving way faster than anybody expected. Tesla, when you zoom out and you look at where Tesla has gone from entering the market to where it is today, and how it has so dramatically affected policy and just in terms of like business success, and then the way that it's affected the narrative and the conversation and has insinuated itself into positions of power. All these different projects that he's undertaken, and when he says he wants to put a 1 million person base on Mars, I mean, all right, I'm ready to watch. Real quick one here. I should have done this earlier to keep things topical, but a quick little Nick Fuentes clip here. Someone pointed something out that I probably wouldn't have noticed if they hadn't pointed it out, but now that they did point it out, I can't not notice it. Why is he doing a Trump impression? Cadence, posture, and everything. What the fuck was he on back then? This is very clearly a Trump impression.
I was supposed to be entering Boston University for my sophomore year, but in response to recent death threats and threats against my physical safety, I decided that might not be the best idea. When you start receiving death threats to the extent that I have, it just becomes a liability to my brand, to my academic success and everything else, when you do have to worry about people ganging up on you or whatever. It's disturbing to me the level of hate that people have been able to express and been able to feel against someone they've never met, never saw, never had a conversation with. They say that we're the hateful ones, we're the bigots, and I get messages all day long from people I've never met telling me what a terrible person I am. There's no hate on this side, I hate no one. I would never do anything like that, and so I think it's a little bit upsetting that the political climate is the way it is. My reason for going down to Charlottesville over the weekend was to demonstrate. It was to show solidarity for a cause which has not been talked about in the mainstream media, which the American people never got a vote on, and that is the fundamental transformation of the composition of our country.
I wouldn't have picked it out at first, but once this person here, El Ricky, once he pointed it out, I was like, oh, it's very, very clear. And I don't say that as a, I have my critiques of Nick. I don't say that as a critique. I think if you can do it, then more power to you. And he does it subtly, which is good. it's interesting that I need to go back now and listen. Like, I need to listen to that and then listen to him actually talking and see to what extent he's retained it or to what extent he's moved on. But even like really exposing his teeth when he talks, I can't do it. But like Trump has that where he's constantly baring his teeth. He was doing that as well. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the Supreme Court ruling that black people are no longer allowed to vote. Total libtard collapse. Look at this. This is how they're taking it. Don't listen to the panicans. Let the libs tell you themselves what they are going through right now. Our greatest enemies, this is what they think.
And now we're at a point where affirmative action is gone, diversity is gone, equity gone, inclusion gone, racial tolerance gone, the Voting Rights Act largely gone. But guess what, extremists? We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. And we believe in this country, not a perfect country.
Affirmative action is gone. Diversity is gone. Equity is gone. Inclusion is gone. Total libtard collapse. Speaking of our powerful patriot poster, Logan Clark Hall, I think this is a great opportunity to take a moment and enjoy a national revival banger celebrating this great moment in our nation's history.
Look to the past and remember a smile, and maybe tonight I can breathe for a while. I'm not in the scene, I think I'm falling asleep, but then all that it means is I'll always be dreaming of you. Fell short this time, smile fades in the summer rays. Your hand in mine, I'll leave when I wanna be. Fell short this time, smile fades in the summer rays. Your hand in mine, I'll leave when I wanna.
This is my culture. These are my people. This is my country. What a glorious, glorious, blessed nation smiled upon by the Lord. Listen, we haven't had a Scott Jennings clip here in a little while, but he got a good one in. A little boomer, but we can appreciate our boomer posters. Listen to him. Absolutely, just this lib is so proud of himself, and then just gets left gagged.
My view is that states ought to decide this. A. B, regarding John's argument, I just fundamentally think that the government shouldn't be in the business of dividing us up by race. It's fundamentally racist to divide us up by race. We have African-American members of the House winning in districts across the country with plurality white populations. We are well beyond the issues that were at play.
The issue there is
Clarence Thomas. We've obviously got some serious deficits. We haven't had an African-American Republican governor since Reconstruction. I mean, you know, there's a unfortunately imbalance between the two parties.
Republicans tried to elect one in Virginia.
Okay. Well, I'm
just saying. And then you got a white Democrat who gerrymandered the state.
We're going to end this here. Everything is crumbling, clearly, at this table. Next, speaking of crumbling, the panel is going to give their nightcaps.
Talk about being lobbed a softball and just hitting it the hell out of the park. There hasn't been a Republican governor since Reconstruction, black Republican governor since Reconstruction. Yeah, Republicans tried to elect one. Man, when you can use your great, your own step on a rake moments and you can turn them around like that, it may have all been worthwhile. Apologies to my brothers in Virginia, but from afar, it may have all been worthwhile just to get this clip. Just to get this clip of Scott Jennings being Johnny on the spot. And, politically Catholic! Teal box!
Happy belated 29th birthday to Amy. The governor of LA just canceled the election so he could redraw the maps. The urge to throw a Roman and yell "Hail Victory" at work right now for that patriot is almost irresistible.
That's the governor of Louisiana, by the way, not the governor of LA. Yes! Thank you! Thank you, Andrew. You, sir, are a great brother in Christ. I appreciate you, man, and Amy does as well. You're getting ahead of the show here. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. So let's talk a bit, continuing with the libs' reaction to this. Magoo!
The white man is back.
Mission accomplished.
We hit the goal! Yeah, baby! All right, make sure you go over to form.kingpill.com. Someone is getting paid. Get your name in there. Look at these boys. Look at these boys. Just carrying the Erickson family. I love every single one of you guys. Now the tip goal can continue going up. Now it's just increasing the potential winnings of whoever the lucky one is. So please do make sure you continue to tip. It's the end of the month, so rent is due tomorrow, and getting some extra money in the pocket will feel nice. Tip link is pinned in the chat. Make sure you use that one if you want the little automations to play. All right, so continuing the subject of the libs reacting to the Supreme Court gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, here is a democracy docket. Breaking. This is my kind of breaking slop. SCOTUS guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act by making it harder to challenge racially discriminatory maps. Today's decision will threaten black and brown political Isn't that interesting? Black gets the capital B, but brown does not. You browns, you're just our tokens. This is like our super special tokens, and these are our just like we needed to cram something in there. Like when you get a package from Amazon, and you got like I don't know, like a little like some small trinket, and it comes in a big box with a bunch of padding stuffed in around it. That's what the browns are. The browns are just like the padding that gets stuffed in around the blacks. Today's decision will threaten black and brown political representation for generations in southern states. Full story to come. Here's the impact. Today's ruling could, again, this is democracy docket. This is not Republicans pumping their own bags. This is democracy docket. Today's ruling could help secure 27 more red seats in Congress, cement GOP House control for at least a generation, rewrite redistricting rules for state legislatures, city councils, and school boards. I haven't seen any of our guys talking about this yet. They've talked about how it affects at the federal congressional level, but state legislatures, city councils, and school boards as well? Without racial protections, maps could be redrawn with almost no limits. What's next? The case will return to lower courts for more proceedings, and the approximately 20 lawsuits on hold pending a decision in Calais will likely move forward. So there's an additional 20 lawsuits on various terms and targeted at various ends that have been waiting. So more stuff is going to start falling going forward. Florida, the only state left in the ongoing redistricting war, could benefit from today's decision before the 2026 election. That's already been done, passed by the House and the Senate, and signed by Ron DeSantis yesterday, picking up, I believe, 4 seats. The court first heard the case last March when it questioned whether Louisiana violated the Constitution by drawing a map to comply with the Voting Rights Act. Now, I'm going to go into some of the details. We'll get into a little of the nitty gritty here because I had to employ the clanker to help me out because there's some wonkish stuff going on with this, but we'll tease it out. It scheduled a rare rehearing in October on the question of whether Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act violates the 14th or 15th Amendment. There was the majority 6-3 decision, and then Clarence Thomas, so the majority decision was written by Samuel Alito. Clarence Thomas issued a separate concurrence that agreed with it, but said he would have gone further, and Gorsuch signed on to that concurrence. So it was a 6-3 decision. Only the 3 lib women, or I guess the 3 openly lib women on the dissent. Justice Kagan is basically going full-blown Chicken Little, the sky is falling, the world's come to an end. And then Clarence Thomas says, I agree with this, I would have gone even further. And Gorsuch says, yeah, I'm with him. So this is what he said. Today's decision should largely put an end to this disastrous misadventure in voting rights jurisprudence. Now, this is a little wonky, so just bear with it, and I'm going to go parse some of this stuff out later. As I explained more than 30 years ago, I would go further and hold that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act does not regulate districting at all. The relevant text prohibits states from imposing or applying a voting qualification a prerequisite to voting, or standard practice or procedure in a manner that results in a denial or abridgment of the right to vote based on race. How states draw district lines does not fall within any of those three categories. So he's saying Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act doesn't even have anything to do with redistricting, with how the states choose to draw their lines. It has no bearing on it whatsoever. It only applies to like using race to determine whether someone is qualified to vote, whether there's some sort of prerequisite to vote that they have to fill out, like a test or something like that. Like if you're black, you have to take a test, or any sort of standard practice or procedure that denies or abridges the right to vote based on race. Drawing district lines does not deny anyone the right to vote based on race. They're still fully free to vote. So he's saying that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act doesn't even have anything to do with redistricting whatsoever. The words in Section 2 instead, quote, reach only enactments that regulate citizens' access to the ballot or the processes for counting a ballot. They do not include a state's choice of one districting scheme over another. Therefore, no Section 2 challenge to districting should ever succeed. Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch say no Section 2 challenge to districting should ever succeed. They should be thrown out immediately on, I can't remember the term for it, but just like strictly on like they don't even have standing to vote or standing to sue. Now, Will Chamberlain here says this is the key passage in Louisiana v. Calais. While not overturning Section 2 of the VRA, it construes it into near irrelevance. So it doesn't overturn it. Anybody saying that it's overturned, they might be speaking kind of like rhetorically, like it's effectively this application of it has been overturned. But it doesn't actually overturn it, but it construes it targets it down so narrowly that it becomes virtually irrelevant. Like there's no conceivable possibility that you're going to wind up in 2026 in the United States having people say, well, black people should be required to take a special test before they're eligible to vote. You can do all the memes and they're funny and everything, but it's never going to happen. It's not even conceivable. So the Supreme Court is basically saying, like, we've reached a point in racial relations that we don't need to have these structural adjustments to accommodate for racism or whatever. Just accept that whole thing is dead and we can just move forward. All minority voters are entitled to is that the map drawers not use race as a metric in drawing their maps. Andrew again!
They don't understand the things I say on Twitter.
Oh, thank God. I had to get that Roman for our Giga Nigga clearance out of my system somehow. Sweet relief.
The Giga Nigga! Oh, our favorite white man, Clarence Thomas. The Giga Nigga. Our Gullah Patriot. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you, man. Hopefully everyone woke up and threw up a Roman in honor of our great Giga Nigga today. And if you didn't, it's never too late. Jeff Accordion!
Call it a compromise.
I see what you're doing there. The 350. Thank you, Emperor Atreides, for the kicks. So there's the kicks. All minority voters are entitled to is that the map drawers not use race as a metric in drawing their maps. So essentially, when you provide your justification for your map, you just can't use race as a determining factor at all. You can't appeal to that or factor it in. Otherwise, you're free to draw the maps as you see fit. So that means no more majority-minority districts. And that, in case this doesn't make sense, majority-minority means that the districts are majority non-white. This is majority-minority is a euphemism for anti-white. No more anti-white districts. That's what that says. Now, I'm not going to read this because this is like, I was reading through this and trying to like make sense of it myself, trying to wrap my mind around it. He's talking about like they can use computers and algorithms and stuff to do the maps and everything. This is exceptionally wonky. So I'm not going to read that. But Will Chamberlain says you have to understand how brilliant Alito is. This is actually better than getting rid of Section 2 outright because it means that Section 2 can now be used to challenge majority-minority districts for impermissibly using race. You follow that? So What this decision, passing this decision the way that they did, has flipped Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act around to where now it is a SCOTUS precedented tool for people to legally challenge anti-white districts and get them thrown out. Redlining is back, baby. Yeah, baby. Right. Kate says you might still get minority majority districts in some pockets, depending on the demographic makeup of some states, but it's going to be very rare in southern states going forward. Right. So, like, it's possible that if you draw the map according to the way that you would draw the map based on voting patterns and trying to keep contiguity, you're not going to get like these really protracted, drawn-out, snake-like maps. You're keeping it roughly square, mapping onto a particular voting district or a particular city or county. So there may be some cases where those districts are majority-minority, just by the natural population that's there. But if if Democrats want to go draw maps that try to carve out white neighborhoods to maintain a black predominant district or a Hispanic predominant district, then the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act now becomes a tool that white people can go sue and say this is anti-white discrimination, and based on Supreme Court precedent, those districts will be rendered ineligible. They'll be thrown out. This is even better than just getting the Voting Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act overturned or Section 2 getting thrown out altogether. So I asked Grok, I said, give me a summary of the recent SCOTUS case regarding the VRA that I can use as a brief but thorough explainer for a podcast. Include a definition of the Voting Rights Act, the key arguments employed by the majority, how the concurrence aligns and differs from the majority, how the votes split across the majority and concurrence, along with anything else that is relevant to ensure the audience has a good grasp of the whole situation. So this is a great use case for Grok. So it's a major 6-3 ruling that strikes down a Louisiana congressional map with 2 majority black districts and significantly narrows the key enforcement provision of the Voting Rights Act in redistricting cases. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is the landmark civil rights law that banned racial discrimination in voting, especially in the South, where poll taxes, literacy tests, and other barriers had long suppressed black voting power under the 15th Amendment. Section 2, the nationwide provision at issue here, prohibits, quote, any voting qualification or prerequisite to voting or standard practice or procedure, end quote, that results in the denial or abridgment of the right to vote on account of race or color. In 1982, Congress amended it to create a results or effects test, not just proof of discriminatory intent. So they didn't just have to prove that people intended to discriminate, even if they unintentionally discriminated. Then they're looking at the impact, like disparate impact. Courts look at the totality of circumstances to decide whether minorities have, quote, less opportunity than other members of the electorate to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice, end quote. It explicitly does not guarantee proportional representation by race. Because this is one thing that they've tried to construe. They said, well, if blacks are X percentage of the population, then they should be X percentage in representation. And that is explicitly not the case. The key test for vote dilution claims in redistricting came from Thornburg v. Jingles, 1986. Plaintiffs must show, first, that the minority group is large and compact enough for a majority district. 2, it's politically cohesive. So it can't just be you've got a whole bunch of blacks in one basically compact district. They have to also be politically cohesive. So you need to be able to demonstrate that they all tend to vote the same way. And then 3, the majority bloc usually defeats its preferred candidates. If those preconditions are met, then courts examine the totality of circumstances. So what happened in Louisiana? After the 2020 census, Louisiana's initial congressional map had only 1 majority black district out of 7, even though black residents are about 1/3 of the population. Again, that is irrelevant. Black residents being 1/3 of the population does not mean that there needs to be black representatives making up 1/3 of the total representatives. Black voters sued under Section 2, this was the Robinson case, and won a preliminary injunction. A federal court found likely vote dilution, cracking black voters across districts. In other words, drawing the district lines through the middle of black neighborhoods to split the black population apart. The legislature responded by drawing a new map, SB 8, with a second majority black district to comply. Non-black voters then sued. This is the Calais case, arguing that SB 8 was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause because race predominated in drawing the lines. In other words, they explicitly went and drew this map so that they would produce a second majority black district. It was not only was it a factor, the Supreme Court is now saying it can't even be a factor whatsoever. Not only was it a factor, it was the predominant factor in the drawing of that map. The conservative majority, written by Justice Samuel Alito, struck down SB 8 as an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. So this decision strictly directly applies to just this particular Louisiana map. However, it's establishing now precedents that open up the possibility of all these other different states redistricting themselves. And the question now is going to be, which ones are going to redistrict and how aggressively are they going to do it? And what sort of lawsuits and stuff are going to be filed and how does it proceed going forward? So the majority held that because Section 2, properly interpreted, did not actually require Louisiana to create that second majority black district, there was no compelling governmental interest justifying the race-based drawing of lines. Race predominated, so strict scrutiny applied and the map failed. The key arguments from the majority, which was Alito, joined by Roberts, Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, says racial gerrymandering claims trigger strict scrutiny. Compliance with Section 2 can be a compelling interest, but only if the VRA actually required the race-conscious remedy. The court properly construed Section 2 to enforce the 15th Amendment's ban on intentional racial discrimination in voting, not a pure disparate impact or effects test that would conflict with the Constitution's colorblind equal protection principles. They, quote, updated the Jingles framework for modern realities. So a decline, this is what's really interesting. They're saying in 1986, the racial situation, the racial climate in the world, or in the United States, was different than it is today. So since 1986, in the last 40 years, they're saying there's been a decline in overt discrimination. There is a strong correlation between race and party. And this case, Rucho v. Common Cause, making partisan gerrymandering non-justiciable and sophisticated mapping software. The fact that all of these elements agree now, they're saying the Jingles framework was appropriate for that time, but we need to update it for now. So specifically, illustrative maps must satisfy all legitimate state criteria, including partisan or political goals like protecting incumbents, and not just compactness. Evidence of racially polarized voting must control for party affiliation, so plaintiffs have to show block voting that can't be explained by partisanship. And then in the totality of circumstances, courts must focus on evidence giving rise to a strong inference of present-day intentional discrimination, not historical or societal effects. So if you're going to get something thrown out on the basis of it being racially gerrymandered, you can't just appeal to stuff in the past. You have to say, no, here is strong evidence from which we can infer that there is intentional racial discrimination happening in the drawing of this map. The result here, the original map with one majority black district did not violate Section 2 under this test, so SB 8's second district was unjustified race-based line drawing. The majority says it is not striking down Section 2, it's interpreting it correctly to avoid constitutional problems. Justice Clarence Thomas fully joins the majority opinion, but writes separately to go further. He agrees the decision should largely end the disastrous misadventure of courts treating Section 2 as giving racial groups an entitlement to roughly proportional representation, but he would hold that Section 2's text does not regulate districting at all. It only covers things like ballot access qualifications or vote counting procedures, not how states draw district lines. So no Section 2 challenge to redistricting should ever succeed. This aligns with the majority's narrowing, but differs by wanting an even more sweeping limit on the VRA's reach in this area. So the majority opinion was joined by all 6 conservative justices. The concurrence was written by Thomas and joined only by Gorsuch. And then the dissent was written by Kagan and joined by Sotomayor and Jackson. Kagan read her dissent from the bench, a rare sign of strong disagreement. Justice Elena Kagan for the Liberals called this the, quote, latest chapter in the majority's now completed demolition of the Voting Rights Act. Now completed demolition of the Voting Rights Act. She argued the majority effectively reimposes a discriminatory intent requirement that Congress explicitly rejected in the 82 amendments, making Section 2 all but a dead letter. That's a quote. All but a dead letter for redistricting claims. By demanding plaintiffs disentangle race from politics and prove near intent level discrimination, the court guts the effects test Congress chose, especially after Rucho already shields partisan gerrymanders. So basically she's saying, by you requiring that it be proven that the discrimination was done intentionally for the sake of racial discrimination, you basically obliterated the like disparate impact, sort of like the we don't care whether it was intentional or not, we just care about the outcomes, and the outcomes are racist, therefore it's racist. She says you've obliterated that as a standard. She forgot to attach the GigaChat image, right? The ruling opens the door for states, especially in the South, to redraw maps with fewer majority-minority districts, potentially helping Republicans in future House elections. Most impact likely 2028 and beyond, as many 2026 deadlines have passed. More on that in a moment. Voting rights advocates say it makes it far harder to protect minority voting power. The majority says it prevents unconstitutional racial line drawing and restores proper limits on federal judicial power. So now let's see here. Christian Haynes, I've got a bunch of stuff from him. He says, I may have understated what we're allowed to get away with next. And if you want to be able to follow this closely and be like up to date on the developments on this front, he is an absolutely must follow. I don't know if he pronounces it Hines or Haynes, but last name is spelled H-E-I-E-N-S, and his Twitter handle is just first name, last name. There's no reason for Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana itself to not all draw new congressional maps immediately. The Supreme Court may have just overturned one congressional district in Louisiana, but we probably have the opening to draw out as many Democrat seats in the South as we want. There are at least 9 Democrat-held congressional seats in states with GOP majorities that we can eliminate almost immediately. The only drawback is many of these states are probably too far into the primary process to take effect in 2026. Let's see here. We've got Marsha Blackburn has proposed a 9-0 in favor of Republicans redistricting map for Tennessee to redraw, thanks to the Supreme Court ruling against racial gerrymandering under the VRA. She says, I urge our state legislature to reconvene to redistrict another Republican seat in Memphis. It's essential to cement President Trump's agenda and the golden age of America. Then Louisiana Republican Governor Jeff Landry. Look at this patriot right here. Jeff Landry, this is what Politically Catholic was referring to. He is planning to suspend the May 16th primary election so that lawmakers can redraw the congressional map. The map would likely be a 6-0 map. The current map is 4-2. So it was 5-1. They had one majority black district. They added the second one to make it 4-2. That second one is the one the Supreme Court just threw out. And now they're going to redraw the congressional map. They're suspending the primary election so that they can redraw the map and make it 6-0. Now, maybe it doesn't wind up that way. Maybe it only winds up at 5-1. But hey, every single one counts. This is where you're a bunch of guys with a lot of posting time on your hands. You're in one of these states. You need to be absolutely inundating your state officials with calls demanding this. Demanding aggressive action on this. Don't let these squishy Republicans cuck out and be like, oh, we're too far into the process. No. It's going to happen. There's going to be some that do. We're not here in the game where we give up if we don't get 100% of what we want. So it's absolutely going to happen. There's going to be some that we're not going to get the maximal number of seats that we can, but the future is still extraordinarily bright. Christian again says, you can easily draw an 8-0 congressional map in Missouri, where every district voted for Trump by at least 12 points. Republicans don't have to just settle for dismantling the Kansas City district. They can destroy the St. Louis one as well. With Calais no longer ensuring that Democrats get free congressional seats based on race, there's no reason to keep this district intact any longer. All 8 of these districts have swung right since 2012, so there's very little risk of this turning into a dummy mander. And as I've understood it, a dummy mander is basically where you gerrymander for a short period of time, but then the next census, it gets reverted back again. Think about this. In Missouri, think about what this says about the Democrat Party and how they have held on to power. In Missouri, you can create 8 districts, an 8-0 map, where they all voted for Trump by at least 12 points. There is no reason that there should have ever been any Democrat seats in Missouri. Yes, Jeff Accordion, the Democrat Party is entirely fake. Literally the only reason why they've maintained power is because of fraud and election rigging. Without that, this country is like 65-35 red. Jeremy Carl says a few underrated follow-ons from this voting rights decision. First, it will eliminate a lot of the very worst members of Congress because members elected from majority-minority districts conspicuously tended to ignore the interests of white voters in their districts and to engage in corrupt politics. Really important observation here. Not only is this eliminating Democrat seats, but it's eliminating some of the worst. Number 2, it will also tend to draw more moderately Republican districts as opposed to very conservative GOP districts, as more minority voters are distributed to those districts. But I think the practical effects of this will be somewhat muted because there are many GOP congressmen from very conservative districts that already did not vote conservatively. So what he's saying is that you're going to get more red districts, but you're getting a bunch of blue voters being pushed into red districts. So those red districts are actually going to get a little more purple. So they'll be red, but they won't be as strongly red as they were before. But he's like, it's not going to make that big of a difference because we've already got a bunch of deep red districts with totally cucked Republican congressmen. So, Mongoloid.
Did you see Brendan O'Connell get fo by Joaquin on Tommy's pod? It was entertaining.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Brendan O'Connell and Joaquin Flores on Tommy's podcast. That was a shit show. An absolute shit show. It was remarkable. You're not gonna glean basically anything from from it, like in terms of you're not gonna learn anything from it. But just for the sake of the spectacle and watching a guy get called out as a clear intel asset in real time, that it's worth the watch. I kind of feel bad for Tommy that he stumbled his way into that. Agipop Master says the Walsh Wave is uploaded. Okay, I've got it here, and I already had that one on the that tweet on the docket to read. So I've got a little segment for it here. It'll be toward the back end of the show. So I'll play the Walsh Wave then. Now, when combined with the 2032 redistricting that will see another 10 or so districts move from blue states to red states, it makes the math for a Democrat House majority much more challenging. So there already is going to be a 2032 redistricting that would happen after the ostensibly 2030 census. Now, I think the census is probably going to happen even before then. So this timeline might be even more compressed. But basically, just with current trends as they are, there was already going to be a redistricting that was going to hurt the Democrats substantially. Even with a GOP House majority, the Democrats already hold 46 of the 69 House seats that were decided by 10 points or less. So their possibilities for durable gains are already kind of small. Even a wave election right now would probably only net the Democrats a number of seats in the low 20s. So if there was a blue wave, you'd be talking about a net 20-seat increase, which is still a relatively small majority. That level of gain will be completely wiped out by the number of seats changing hands due to this voting rights decision and the subsequent 2032 redistricting. Number 4, bottom line. This is the first time we've had fair electoral maps for the GOP in decades. If we combine this with electoral reforms like the SAVE Act, it will be very, very difficult for the Democrats to have a durable House majority at any time in the 2030s. By contrast, even in moderately good elections for the GOP in the 2030s, we could see very sizable House majorities. So you wouldn't have to necessarily have a red wave, but it would translate to a substantial GOP majority, especially vis-a-vis Democrats and what their wave would translate to. Which, if combined with filibuster reform, could actually leave the GOP with its first true working congressional majorities in my lifetime. You see a lot of the panic in class who wants to say, oh, they've got all three seats, all three branches of government under their control, and they haven't been able to accomplish anything. No, they don't have Congress under their control. It's a fake majority. It's a majority in name only. An actual majority would be a majority of members of Congress who are in lockstep with the administration, who will vote the administration's agenda. That does not exist. In summary, this is a huge win for the GOP, for fair elections, and for the United States as a whole. The bust of Samuel Alito must be commissioned now. And Jeremy Carl has been, he posted elsewhere that he recalls talking about this issue and trying to work on resolving this issue. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and the way that it's basically an explicitly anti-white it's in implementation. It's explicitly anti-white, like 40 years ago. Duffhead.
A few shekels for a good goy.
A shekel for a good guy.
Thank you, Duffhead. Appreciate you, sir. Okay, more from Christian here. He says, Democrats are going to have to dismantle their own Urban Voting Rights Act districts that are 70% black or Hispanic in order to counter what's about to happen across the country, which means the party's own internal coalition is going to fracture. They're already barely clinging to power desperately. They're already probably beyond the point where they can maintain their coalition and be able to win elections with it, because the nature of their coalition is they have to include factions that negatively affect them electorally. Well, now they're going to have to dismantle those districts, which means, he says, the Democratic caucus in Congress is about to become a lot more female, a lot more suburban, a lot richer, and a lot more mentally ill. When you think about the downstream effects of Democrats having to redistrict, having new constraints within which they can draw their districts, they're going to have to lean into wealthy, white, urban females. The Democrat Party is dead. Like the British Empire, it's still, there's this zombified corpse of it that is still being animated by puppeteers, but it's already dead. We're gonna look back in a few decades as the Democrat Party died in 2016, and it was continuing on fumes, but it's headed to just an absolute crash out, face plant, complete destruction in the mud. Fisher King points out that packing the Supreme Court would require replacing the Judiciary Act of 1869, which fixes SCOTUS at 9 justices. So the left needs to get a law through Congress, not just win the presidency. This is their whole big thing, is they want to get Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., they want to turn them into states, and then they want to expand the Supreme Court. In order to do that, they're going to have to get a substantial majority in Congress. They can't just win the White House. With red states growing and blue states shrinking, and with today's SCOTUS ruling prohibiting racial gerrymandering, the left feels its window is closing. A favorable congressional map for the GOP means the left could never get a new judicial act through Congress, could not pack the court and reinstate Roe v. Wade, or overturn today's Voting Rights Act decision. New districts are coming in 2032. That's not much time. So the intensity around court packing is going to increase. The redistricting effort, like what we saw in Virginia, will amp up. Because the winds of the right in recent years are on the verge of becoming irreversible. Remember this when you hear someone like Obama talking in grand terms about changing rules to protect our democracy. Shout out to First Citizen for sharing this one yesterday. This tweet, it's a good one. And I'd be very curious to hear the case against Republicans preemptively expanding the Supreme Court and replacing Alito, Thomas, maybe Roberts, plus adding 4 more conservative justices. I'd really like to hear the cost-benefit analysis on that. Imagine pitting the Democrats, having the Democrats have to go on the record opposing expanding the Supreme Court. I don't know if it would be possible with the fake majority right now, but 2028? Fisher King adds, some people are objecting, saying, but redistricting takes place immediately, not in 2032. Yes, I know. That's what I'm referring to in the last paragraph with respect to Virginia. The point about 2032 is that we have a census in 2030, which everyone agrees will result in more House seats in red states and fewer in blue states. The first election where that will show up is in 2032, so the left has a short window to get a lot done before then. This is why they're talking about making Puerto Rico and D.C. into states and why they're doing redistricting in Virginia. They can't pack SCOTUS, secure their power, and reverse gains if they can't push things like a court-packing law through Congress. And that will be harder as of 2032. Now, I've seen them, they are in full-blown hysterical cope mode. I've seen them talking about breaking up D.C. into like 6 states or something. Like, oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to break D.C. up, and we're not just going to add D.C. as a state. We're going to break it up into 6 states. Each one of them is going to be a neighborhood, and there's going to be 2 senators for each one. Or we're going to redistrict California and New York and eliminate all Republican seats in there altogether. Yeah, good luck with that, folks. Good fucking luck with that. Straight Buster says packing the Supreme Court is the Democrat version of blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, yes, what? What an analogy. Tremendous. Highest IQ chat on the internet. Confirmed. All right, we got Niggerly here making an appearance again. A new migration shift is happening in the U.S. The Midwest, after losing people for 30 plus years, is now surging, with plus 16,000 migration in 2025. On the flip side, people are leaving the West Coast. California continues to lose people, and the losses are spreading to other West Coast states. And the Midwest seems to be gaining, likely due to its affordability, climate resilience, and improved job prospects due to manufacturing onshoring. If this trend continues, it has the potential to dramatically reshape the U.S. housing market. Again, this is an ad for his app Reventure, but here's a graph. Look at this graph. Migration shift: Midwest overtakes West Coast. So the orange is the Midwest. The blue is the West Coast. The Midwest, after losing people for 34 years in a row, added over 16,000 net transplants in 2025 from domestic migration from other states. Now, like I mentioned yesterday, this will have a purpling effect. It already does have a purpling effect on the so-called flyover states, because you do have a lot of like people coming from lib regions. They're going to bring lib sensibilities with them, but the early movers on that are generally the people who are in lib regions and are not libs. That's like the earliest movers, generally speaking. Yeah, so what we're looking at here is there's going, I'd say 10 years from now, we're going to look back and the political landscape of the United States is going to be completely different. It's not going to land cleanly on a right versus left. It's not going to land cleanly on like what we historically associate Republican versus Democrat. It's going to be comprehensively different. Fugitive Truster, shout out to him. He says, I was one of the guys a year ago saying Trump should ignore the courts and cross the Rubicon, and I was wrong. See how easy that is? Look at that. All he had to do was just type a sentence. I was calling for Trump going all the way, but Trump was right. Once again, Trump was right. I was wrong. It's so easy. This is why we love the Fugitive Truster. Captive Dreamer said Trump is winning in the courts. Last year, people were saying he should cross the Rubicon and arrest the Supreme Court or whatever. And since then, it's been a steady stream of wins here and downstream. He says another example of Trump being smarter than me. Andrew Isker says, I went back and forth on this. As gratifying as Jacksonian stuff would be, the risk of getting totally crushed was not worth the reward, especially given other less risky options had a chance of paying off. And Cato the Elder said, Mystery Grove wrote about this back when the Battle of Minneapolis was going on. It's always better for Trump to use the levers of legitimacy and authority rather than just seize power. It teaches people that this is the new normal, that we are here to stay. You guys cannot, I mean, you guys can. The people who don't understand this absolutely cannot wrap their minds around how extraordinarily demoralizing it is to not just win, but to win while coloring within the lines. Look at this. We can re-engineer your managerial bullshit back on you. We can take your game and we can beat you with it. Not beat you at it, beat you with it. We don't have to color outside the lines. We're just better than you. So surrender. And it also means that this stuff is not just being done as sweeping executive actions. It's much more difficult to undo later on. Because whether or not you think that the whole gigantic Byzantine elaborate network of contracts and rules and procedures and guidelines, just because you don't think that they're legitimate, doesn't mean that the overwhelming, but a substantial majority of the population doesn't think that they're legitimate. Everyone has this idea of like, oh, we're going to reach this tipping point and people are just going to check out and not believe in the system anymore. Yeah, good luck with that, guys. You are going to die believing that. You are going to hopefully die peaceful, happy lives as old men, continuing to believe that that's right around the corner. Now, one other quick little, just for the fun of it, one other quick little appreciation moment for the great Samuel Alito. I cannot fathom how people can blackpill when we have conversations like this happening with the Supreme Court.
Isn't it the case that TPS was terminated for quite a list of countries? I can't seem to find the particular page of the transcript where the district court goes through them all. And yes, none of those is a Nordic country. And I don't like dividing up the people of the world arbitrarily into three racial groups. But when you say they're all non-white, and that's the distinguishing characteristic.
That is the distinguishing characteristic that the district court held. But I would emphasize, Justice Alito, that
but do you think that if you put Syrians, Turks, Greeks, and other people who live around the Mediterranean in a lineup, do you think you could say those people are that all of them, are they all non-white?
Is Justice Samuel Alito a secret ethno-guesser aficionado? Does he go to hbd.gg at night to entertain himself?
I understand that Syrians, I think, may be classified as white for purposes of the State Department, or for under certain government programs. But again, I think race is. I think you'd have to poll the public to know what they think the race of a Syrian is. I certainly think they're not white.
Poll the American people.
Well,
do they think Syrians are white?
I wouldn't think that most would, Justice Alito.
Really?
I really don't.
How about Turks?
I honestly haven't considered what racial component I would sort Turks into.
How about Greeks?
I don't know the answer to that either.
How about Southern Italians?
Well, certainly 120 years ago, when we had our last wave of European immigration, Southern Italians were not considered white. So I think our concept of these things evolves over time.
How about Spaniards?
I think same answer. About 120 years ago, I don't think they were considered white.
You have a really large, a really broad definition of who's white and who's not white. As I said, I don't like dividing the people of the world into these groups.
I understand. I would say that even under this court's rationality jurisprudence, if you look at cases like Moreno, it is not necessary for us to get strict scrutiny to win here, because irrespective of how you do the classification at issue here, under those courts, under those decisions, under those precedents, bare dislike of an unpopular group
Get
is
it
a
out,
sufficient
libtard!
basis to find that rational basis is not even satisfied.
This is Jeffrey Pipoli, attorney for Haitian nationals. We've got a Supreme Court justice bringing up Sicilians, questioning whether or not they can be considered white. As Tikon said, these types of questions were unfathomable in the Supreme Court even 2 years ago. It's so funny how the accelerationists can't pick up on the acceleration. Isn't that odd? All the guys are like, we need to accelerate. Nigga, we're accelerating. Can you not feel it? Are you dumb? How do you not recognize that we're fucking accelerating like hell? You guys are left behind. That's how fast we're accelerating. Some guy, I feel for the guy. He's commenting on an episode on the I think it wasn't the last one. It was the one before. It was the debate review between Owen Schroyer and Andrew Wilson.
Anyone south of Switzerland, I start raising an eyebrow.
Mongoloid, yes. Anyone south of Switzerland. Thank you for the tip. What was I saying? Oh, the guy was commenting and he was like, it was obvious. It was hilarious having him go through and like list off all the non-wins, the absence of wins. He ran through all the hits, every single one of the breaking slop headlines, Patel, Bongino, and Bondi, and all the other things. Ran through all of them, and I'm like, bro, like bless your heart. You're living in December of 2024. You're like Trump was just elected and we have no idea what's going to happen. That's where you're at right now. It's insane how far behind these guys have been left, because they're so focused in they're like tunnel vision on dooming, and they just recite these they chant these phrases back and forth at each other about like Trump chickened out and Bondi sucks and Epstein list, and they're just constantly reciting their religious dogma to each other. And the world has completely moved on and left them, to the point where Samuel Alito is like, wow, you've got an awful a broad definition of white there. That's kind of odd. It's almost like you're using this as a weapon against white people. And he's kind of boomer posting while he does it. I don't like it when we're dividing people up by race like this. He's like boomer posting a little bit, but even still, now, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but I've had it in the stack for a couple of days, and I just want to highlight it real quick. A formal disbarment complaint was filed against Chief Justice John Roberts at the D.C. Bar on April 22, 2026, alleging a pattern of financial disclosure violations spanning 2 decades. At the center of the complaint is the documented commission income earned by Jane Sullivan Roberts while working as a legal recruiter at Major Lindsay in Africa between 2007 and 2014. According to internal records released by whistleblower Kendall Price, she earned $10.3 million in commissions from elite law firms during that period, some of which argued cases before the Supreme Court in the same years. So I think this is something that came up in like 2022 or 2023 and was sort of pushed aside at the time. The fact that it's coming up again, I mean, if he gets disbarred, that doesn't remove him from the bench. But if he gets disbarred for some kind of corruption like this, then that's a pretty good predicate for an impeachment. So I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, or if this is just going to, it's just someone's just filing a disbarment complaint and it just goes nowhere. But I'm starting to sense a theme here of like escalating pressure on the Chief Justice. His seat's getting pretty warm, and I really highly doubt that Trump isn't planning on appointing Supreme Court justices in this term. And having Thomas and Alito both step down, like both of them retire, and having to replace both of them would be kind of, it's kind of like, all right, we're just maintaining the status quo, sort of. It'd be really nice to advance this forward further. So getting a new Chief Justice, I mean, I could see maybe like Clarence Thomas retires and he's replaced and the Chief Justice is replaced, and Ron DeSantis or Ted Cruz or something like that. And then there's a couple other ones. There's the dude out of Texas, James Ho, I think his name is. And there was another one we talked about a few weeks back. I can't remember now. Eric Schmidt would be another pretty interesting one. And then maybe Alito becomes the new Chief Justice or something like that. There's a lot of, you can when I used to be very involved in like baseball and football blogging, we called it roster baiting. When you sit down and you're like, well, they could make this trade, or they could draft this guy, and they could trade this guy, and then they could sign this guy to an extension and move the cap around this way. So it's like we're Supreme Court roster baiting here. Politically Catholic says, I would love to see Ken Paxton get put on SCOTUS. There's another one. We've got some really, really good candidates. Lord Breezy says you might hate Cruz, but he would be so good on SCOTUS. Right. Like, having him as a Supreme Court justice would effectively neuter all of the bad aspects about him. I'm sure that both sides, quote unquote, both sides in Congress would be happy to be rid of him, and it would be like something he couldn't turn down. He couldn't say no to. It would also be eliminating a potential presidential challenger. JLH has tried sending a 1488 via tip link. Make sure it completed. Let me double check here. There was a tip here from Titus 70 BC. Says my wigger. He used the tip link, so it didn't play the automation there. So thank you, Titus. Add $5 to the total. And it looks like, let me see here. I don't think that it completed. Let me check Streamlabs real quick. Yeah, no, Streamlabs doesn't have a record of it either, so I don't know if it went through. Lord Breezy, it's good to see you here. You're gonna make an appearance here in just a little bit. Here's another big one. Starting July 1st, Indiana will be going after employers who hire illegal aliens. Businesses can be permanently shut down and have their licenses taken for failure to comply. Great work by Representatives J.D. Prescott and Michelle Davis, among others, to get that signed into law. This is an announcement here at a Turning Point Action meeting the other day.
But we have to give him the tools and the authority to go after these things. And I'll tell you what, Michelle Davis did that this year. So she's a co-author of Senate Bill 76, the co-sponsor, I think, right? So Senate Bill 76, among other things, it says that you are not going to hire illegal aliens in the state of Indiana, and if you do it, the Attorney General is going to come after you. We're going to fine you $10,000 per violation because we are not going to allow employers undercut Americans with illegal aliens working in the state. It's an incredible bill. I mean, honestly, you hope the federal government was already doing that. But the reality is, under Joe Biden, for years, we weren't doing that. I mean, under Republican presidents in the past, we weren't doing that. We finally got a president in the White House who takes this seriously. We cannot have that forever. So it's really important to have that at the state level, and Michelle helped make that possible. So really, that's where the oversight comes from, is the legislature stepping up and saying, we see this problem. We're going to give our attack dog the tools he needs to get the job done, and Michelle does that.
Patriot, absolute patriot. Now, here's the details on it. Again, I consulted the clanker. What is the status? Indiana's Fairness Act is now law. It is the fostering and advancing immigration reforms necessary to ensure safety and security. The Fairness Act. Passed by the Indiana General Assembly in February. House amendments concurred by Senate and then signed by Governor Mike Braun on March 5th. It effectively July 1. It becomes effective July 1. Well, here's what it does. It's a comprehensive immigration enforcement measure that requires local law enforcement, schools, universities, hospitals, and government bodies to cooperate with federal ICE detainers and immigration enforcement and prohibit sanctuary-style policies, written or unwritten. So this is sanctuary state bullshit, absolutely BTFO'd in Indiana. It allows the Indiana Attorney General to defend entities sued over immigration compliance and to take action against non-compliant ones. In other words, if one of these like NGOs wants to sue a company for employment discrimination because they're not hiring illegals or something like that, the Indiana legislature has authorized the Attorney General to defend those entities. It imposes penalties on employers who knowingly or intentionally hire, recruit, or continue employing unauthorized workers. Fines up to $10,000 plus, possible business license suspension for repeat offenders. E-Verify use provides a safe harbor, and it strengthens overall state-federal cooperation on immigration. And then I clarified this here, the allow Indiana Attorney General to defend entities sued over immigration compliance. It says, this strengthens legal protections and enforcement authority for the Indiana Attorney General. It has two main components: defending compliant entities and enforcing compliance against non-compliant ones. So it adds a new subsection governing when the AG defends state and local officials and entities. If a law enforcement officer, governmental body, or post-secondary educational institution is sued in a civil action, and the Attorney General determines that the suit arises from actions authorized or required by the Immigration Enforcement Chapter, then the Attorney General may defend them throughout the lawsuit if the entity or officer requests representation and the actions in question do not violate federal or state law. So if a law enforcement officer, a governmental body, for example, a city, a county, a school, or a jail, or a college or a university, is sued, and the Attorney General determines that they are being sued for doing things that are either authorized or required by the Immigration Enforcement Chapter, then if they request representation from the Attorney General himself can represent them and defend them throughout the lawsuit. This is discretionary, may defend rather than mandatory, unlike some other defenses the AG must provide. It aims to shield good faith actors from costly private lawsuits, e.g. from advocacy groups when they follow the new requirements to honor ICE detainers, share immigration status info, etc. And then the AG also gains stronger tools to proactively enforce the law against governmental bodies and schools that resist or create barriers. So if the AG finds probable cause of a violation of the anti-sanctuary pro-cooperation rules, the AG shall bring a court action. Available remedies include an injunction to stop the violating policy or practice, civil penalties up to $10,000 per knowing or intentional violation, and other relief needed for future compliance. Violations can occur even for unwritten policies or restrictions. So it's not just a strict letter of the law thing. There's a spirit of the law to it. Special procedures apply for county jails. It builds on prior anti-sanctuary laws, but adds real teeth, including the ability to sue for noncompliance and penalties that apply more broadly. So shout out to our Hoosier Patriots. Good things are happening there. Well below average says, sounds like a Jewish plot to demoralize the right. What's up, Tuz McKee? Good to see you. Speaking of Ken Paxton, he says, breaking, I am suing a Houston area birth tourism center for exploiting birthright citizenship by unlawfully facilitating the invasion of Chinese nationals into Texas for the sole purpose of giving birth. He says, America is for Americans, not foreigners trying to cheat the system to claim citizenship. The center's scheme not only facilitated an invasion of Texas, but it also involved shielding and facilitating violations of immigration law. Birthright citizenship is a scam that threatens national security, and I will do everything in my power to stop unlawful birth tourism schemes like this one. For nearly 2 decades, the center has operated an unlawful birth tourism business. Over that time, the center brags that it is responsible for 1,000 plus American-born babies. The center marketed birth-related services primarily to Chinese clients through popular Chinese social media platforms and websites. They're straight up advertising to Chinese people. Come have your baby here so you can get American citizenship. The company also coaches clients on how to navigate immigration procedures and evade immigration laws when seeking visas and citizenship for themselves and their child. The coaching provided includes encouraging Chinese nationals to enter or remain in the U.S. unlawfully by concealing the fact that the primary purpose of such travel is to give birth. They're actively encouraging them to lie. To make matters worse, operators of the center were aware that U.S. visas were prohibited for birth tourism purposes. In fact, just last week, the center noted that the federal government is, quote, strictly policing birth tourism and recommended that women apply for visas before pregnancy in order to avoid detection. Isn't that interesting? Supposedly, this administration is trying to open up a floodgate of Chinese immigrants into the country, and yet you have this birth tourism center advising their clients, hey, just so you know, the federal government is strictly policing birth tourism now. Investigations revealed that the center operates across at least 4 properties and typically hosts multiple families at each property at one time, facilitating up to 20 births per day. Lists the addresses for the business. Attorney General Paxton is seeking injunctive relief to shut down the operation, amongst other injunctive relief, civil penalties and attorney fees. The lawsuit aims to hold the defendants accountable for deceptive trade practices, tampering with governmental records, unlawful harboring and concealment, and other violations of Texas law. Now, obviously, the birthright citizenship case with the Supreme Court is a whole different ball of wax that we're yet to see how that's going to go. And frankly, I'm not super optimistic. I don't expect it to. I think it's probably going to wind up being like a 5-4 decision or something like that, not in our favor. However, not going to give up hope. Not going to give up hope. And having state level officials prosecuting this like this is good. Okay, so here is a quick update on fraud prosecution, other forms of fraud from our great and glorious Vice President.
The best part about this for me, Will, is you have, when the president empowered his entire government to go after this fraud issue, I had this question to the Department of Justice. These investigations take a long time. So I was asking myself, how quickly can we start getting into some real investigatory work, court-issued warrants, actually going door to door and finding out what's going on? People told me it would take at least 6 months. We've gone from Nick Shirley's video about the Minneapolis fraud schemes
Nick Shirley mentioned
active, judges issuing warrants for this investigation in a matter of 3 months. We've got 280 law enforcement officers.
90 days. 90 days from Nick Shirley's video to judges issuing warrants. That is an insane pace. It makes you wonder if things were in the works before the Nick Shirley video, and maybe perhaps the Nick Shirley video was dropped at an opportune time. But To get the federal government to move this quickly on things like this is absolutely unprecedented.
Working on this problem, we really have the most accelerated, aggressive anti-fraud operation that we've ever seen from the federal government. And again, it's because the President of the United States empowered his team to go after this. That's what we're doing. And this is just a very, very good next step. This is far from done, Will, but we're doing a lot of good work and we're making a lot of progress.
Far from done. Somalians discombobulated. So true. Fugitive Caesar says this is going to accelerate and scale up in incredible ways. We're talking about somewhere in the ballpark of $600 billion in fraud per year, going mostly to Democrats. It will cut down the national debt and be used to destroy Democrat 2028 presidential candidates. And if we want to get real schizo here, I'm sure it's more than $600 billion in fraud per year, but there may be some very creative ways while we're in this transition period, this end of an era, beginning of a new age. There are some very interesting things that could be done with respect to the national debt if it can be demonstrated just how much of that debt is built on fraud. We've got the pugilistic alpha gay who is digging into the bowels of the global financial architecture. And I'm not going to say that there's going to be debt canceled because of it's proven to be associated with fraud, but we may be able to get a little creative with the whole canceling QSIPs thing. TBD. Update on the James Comey case here from Paul Sperry. He says, DOJ sources tell me that prosecutors are pursuing a forfeiture action in relation to James Comey's alleged felonies because they believe Comey posted the 86 Trump threat to also help drum up sales of a forthcoming book. Comey posted the image 5 days before the May 2025 release of his new crime novel. Controversy over the posting thrust Comey back into the headlines and drew potential book buyers to his Instagram and X accounts, where he heavily promoted the book. According to the Comey indictment, quote, upon conviction, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States any property, real or personal, which constitutes or is derived from proceeds traceable to the said offense. Not only are we prosecuting James Comey, we're adding insult to injury. Not only are you going to be sent to federal prison, we're also going to seize all of these assets from your gay-ass book. Total libtard devastation. I want to read something Tyler said here. He said, my friends were like, what is the definition of white? Let's ask Tyler. And I said, it has more to do with latitude than anything. Japs are whiter than Sicilians. And they said, okay, we're not asking you these things ever again. Look at my West Coast patriot. Oh, what a guy. Catching up on the chat here. Well below average says that the people on the ground running these scams can be criminally prosecuted. Why can't the state or local officials also be prosecuted? You know, 0 to 1 here. Lay the groundwork for processing or for prosecuting the people on the ground, and then expand it out into the state and local officials. Idaho is safe, but going to start clamping down on Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, Idaho is. I saw someone. I don't to see who it was, but someone said that asked if Idaho is more red or purple. It's definitely been getting more purple lately. So one way to prevent that is for more patriots to move to Idaho to offset that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Idaho is glorious. It's just wonderful, wonderful country. When we moved to Texas, Idaho was actually our backup plan. It was our alternative. We went to Twin Falls, checked out Twin Falls, drove out to Texas, decided to come to Texas because we knew more people here at the time. But if you've never been to the broader northwest part of the country, you are missing out on some of the most beautiful land on God's green earth. Now, speaking of fraud, here's a quick flashback. I think this is from last year in this one of our Patriot posters, where we go one, we go all. Brought this back up again. So this is an older video, but I wanted to replay it because I've got some context for this coming after, and It's easy to forget these sorts of things have already happened. All the there's been no arrests. They aren't doing anything about this. This was back in, I believe it was toward the latter half of 2025.
This is a Fox News alert. A high-ranking Obama DEA official was just indicted for trying to help the cartel.
Paul Campo conspired, allegedly, to launder up to $12 million in drug trafficking proceeds. Campo and an associate by the name of Robert Sensi are accused in the scheme of converting cash into cryptocurrency to buy 220 kilos of coke, worth about $5 million on the street, and then attempting to launder even more money, almost $750,000 from other drug sales for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. These two gentlemen have been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy to distribute narcotics, and as you can well imagine, also with money laundering conspiracy. Campo has pleaded not guilty, and he is in custody tonight. There's a good chance, Jesse, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
So, the reason I brought that back up again is just to remind you that these things have been dropping for a while. There's been arrests, there's been indictments, this sort of stuff has been going for a while. Keeping in mind that the DOJ does not move quickly. You shouldn't expect it to move quickly. Anybody who brings up January 6th gets stuffed in a locker. Of course the DOJ can move quickly when it's trying to prosecute patriots, because that's what the DOJ has existed for. Which is all the more significant that the DOJ is now being used to prosecute the persecutors of patriots. So, from Leon Moreno Rodriguez and Partners LLP, breaking news: the U.S. Department of Justice has indicted the governor of Sinaloa, along with 9 other current and former Mexican officials, on drug trafficking and weapons-related charges. This move represents a direct and aggressive escalation by Washington against the highest levels of the Mexican state apparatus. The indictments detail a systemic entanglement between regional Morena governance and cartel operations, effectively labeling the Sinaloa state leadership a criminal enterprise under U.S. law. This legal assault by the DOJ decapitates the political leadership of one of Mexico's most strategically sensitive states at a moment of extreme national fragility. By targeting a sitting governor, the U.S. is signaling a total collapse of bilateral trust and an end to the era of diplomatic shielding for Mexican officials. The move is designed to force a confrontation with the Sheinbaum administration, leaving Mexico City with zero room to maneuver between its domestic political alliances and the threat of total diplomatic isolation. The fallout will be immediate and chaotic. Beyond the legal proceedings, these indictments serve as a precursor to broader sanctions and a likely reclassification of Mexican security cooperation. For the Mexican government, the era of managed stability in Sinaloa is over. Sheinbaum is now facing a direct challenge to state legitimacy and a physical security vacuum that will likely trigger a violent internal restructuring of cartel hierarchies and government control. Ron Dotson said U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York has unsealed charges against Rubain Rocha Moya and others tied to the Sinaloa cartel. Not rhetoric, an actual federal case alleging political protection in exchange for cartel support. Note the posture. The U.S. is still speaking the language of cooperation, not rupture, not a declared break with Mexico. If Mexico resists extradition, the next moves are predictable: sanctions, financial isolation, tighter intel compartmentalization. The indictment stands either way. Washington is testing how far it can push sovereignty without collapsing the relationship. And from the same account, Leon Moreno Rodriguez and Partners LLP says the Sheinbaum administration now faces a binary high-stakes choice: sacrifice the governor of Sinaloa immediately, or risk being pulled down by the inevitable fallout. The strategic calculus has shifted from political protection to survival. If Sheinbaum fails to move against him, she risks becoming a collateral casualty of a U.S. prosecution that clearly intends to bridge the gap between regional corruption and federal complicity. The immediate danger to the National Palace is not the indictment itself, but the prospect of the governor ending up in a U.S. interrogation room. If he is extradited or captured by federal agents or U.S. Special Forces, the likelihood of him singing to avoid a life sentence is near certain. Any testimony he provides regarding the high-level protection of cartel interests would directly implicate the previous AMLO administration and, by extension, the Sheinbaum administration. The sacrificial play may be Sheinbaum's only move to contain the damage, provided she can keep him within the Mexican judicial system. Allowing the governor to flee or be taken by the U.S. is a non-starter. The moment he spits the truth to U.S. prosecutors, the entire Morena national structure, including the legacy of AMLO, is compromised. Sheinbaum must now decide if she has the leverage to silence the situation domestically or if the DOJ has already secured enough evidence to force her hand. The margin for diplomatic maneuvering is gone. The priority now is preventing a total collapse of the ruling party's credibility under the weight of U.S. state-level indictments. Remember the clip that I played you guys the other day of the U.S. Embassy personnel who were at that drug bust, died kind of curiously? And then a lot of people have just kind of glossed over the fact that right after they yoinked Maduro and before they began the festivities in Iran in February, there was an operation where they knocked off a cartel boss in Mexico. So this stuff has been ongoing, and it flies under the radar. Most people don't pay attention to it. Most people aren't aware of it. But the Don Road Doctrine is more than just a trade doctrine. Now, speaking of Mexico, look at this ad for LA, Los Angeles mayoral candidate, Spencer Pratt. Yes, that's Spencer Pratt.
This is where Mayor Vass lives. You notice something? Or here, where Nithya Raman's $3 million mansion sits. They don't have to live in the mess they've created where you live. This is where I live. They let my home burn down. I know what the consequences of failed leadership are. That's why I'm running for mayor. For my sons and the rest of us Angelinos that want to stop these corrupt politicians from destroying our city. We are going to get the golden age of Los Angeles back. This is where Mayor Vass.
And he said they not like us. Now, if you're not not an Angelino, you may not appreciate the significance of him saying they not like us, but it's a Kendrick Lamar reference. It's for the blacks. It turns out that this guy is actually a much more legitimate candidate for mayor than I initially appreciated. I saw him as kind of like a sort of a meme candidate, just, you know, a good for you, you know, capitalizing on the Palisades fire tragedy to make a dent, at least rhetorically, messaging, whatever. However, Lakers Governor Jeannie Buss donates the max amount to Spencer Pratt's campaign. Now, the max amount is only $1,800, but she donated $1,800, and he has now surpassed LA Mayor Karen Bass in the odds to be the next mayor of Los Angeles. He has a 20% chance of winning behind whatever Nithya Raman is. Now, Nithya Raman is a Democratic Socialists of America Indian chick, but Spencer Pratt is actually gaining some steam, and if he's got people like Jeannie Buss who are donating to him, he may have more pull there than I thought. This is a kind of a tag on to the conversation yesterday about the governor's race and the other political goings-on that are happening in California. Is a reddening of California actually on the horizon? Could it happen? Possibly? Maybe? Either way, I think we need to get Spencer Pratt in touch with Curtis Yarvin, because Spencer Pratt has created a phone app that will be used for accountability of public officials if he's elected mayor of Los Angeles. Here's how it works. Residents will be able to report things like piles of trash. They can upload a video, and the location is geotagged. An email will be sent out to all the public officials for the problem. The app will keep track of their record of addressing the problems, and a ranking system will be made showing how successful each public official is in each area. If they did fix issues, they'll have a high score. If they ignore issues, they'll have a failing score. Then voters can easily see which public official should be voted for and who needs to be voted out.
I see many neighbors are full of trash. They also request on 311 app, and sometimes 3 months and they never show up. And this is not a lie, because they send me the request and I go and clean up. So people are tired. How do you think you can have a system that works properly and fast?
So I've already created, and I have the test model on my phone. I created an app that will replace 311 that actually has accountability. And eventually the app would merge into the city dashboards if people want to use the app or if they just want to go on the city website. But what the app will do is it will show wherever you are in the city and you open it up and you film whatever you want, it's going to geo-stamp it, and it's going to create accountability to all the people that are responsible. It'll automatically email them.
Yeah, Yahweh's wife says nigga is LA as fuck. Yeah, very much. This is pure LA right here.
And then it'll show their track record of their response time, their failures, so that we see as voters and constituents our city council members, and they'll be ranked and rated like how a restaurant gets a whole Yelp and a call. Why are our city council members not held to the same expectations that my mom will hold the place getting her spinach artichoke dip, where this city council member has the worst response times? They ignore everything, where this one, like the one you mentioned, Rodriguez, with the trash, people will look at her and, oh, she cleaned the trash. She did that. She worked with Juan. She should get credit for that.
She worked
not
with
just
Juan.
being bunched in, oh, the city's failing. There are maybe our people that are working, and we need to make that system have accountability. So
Please tell me you didn't get plastic surgery to
Sam Tripoli wigarism. He does sound like Sam Tripoli. It's like Theodore Dragonsbane said, social credit score but based. It's a social credit score for politicians. Oh man, what a shame. What a shame that such a thing even needs to exist. That something basic like keeping the neighborhood clean now is something that has to be like rated and graded. Hey, were you good at making sure there wasn't fucking trash all over your district? Oh, all right. Now, I used to listen to a lot of Crowder. It's been a long time. But then I saw this video come across early this morning, and it kind of lined up with a couple of the other things I'd already planned on talking about today. Stick with us, Lord Breezy, because your contribution is coming here soon. I wanted to set this up just a little bit because our good friend Jason Miranchuk has said for a long time that the problem with the vengeful son is that it will feel good. And I appreciate the angle that Steven Crowder is taking on this one. He another big shout out, I guess, to Andrew Wilson, because he's gotten in pretty close with Crowder recently, and now Crowder is I think is he going to like an Armenian Orthodox church? He's at least beginning to tiptoe around the outer fringes of orthodoxy, which would be, say a prayer for the man. Pray that he will come home. Tyler says Crowder covering the fishy stuff during the 2020 election was what started getting me out of libertarianism. Yeah. I listened to Crowder in like 2016, 2017, 2018, and then just kind of I got into the more heady stuff, but now I've kind of come full circle and I'm back around to just make me laugh, entertain me, get me hyped. So anyway, so here is Steven Crowder. He said something bad is going to happen. I think this is something that needs to be taken seriously.
Really quickly, and this just as we're about to go live, we don't have a lot of information. An attacker stabbed 2 people in London, specifically a Jewish neighborhood. As the information comes in, we'll roll a video here in just a few moments. Looks like he specifically targeted Jewish people, chased them down and stabbed them. I always try and hold a little bit and get information before, or see the whole picture before we deliver information to you. I think there's going to be a press conference. But this brings me to a point. I sent this and I considered actually sharing these texts with blurring out any personal information. Gerald knows this, and people here know this. Over the last week, I have told people, I've said, look, I really think something pretty bad is going to happen here soon. And I don't just mean based on vibes. I don't just mean, oh, my gut tells me something. I mean, through the objective the variables that I could quantify objectively. We're at an unprecedented place, and I want to give you some specific examples, and it's very disturbing. Look, we know that the left, right? We've talked about this, and they've doubled down. The rhetoric from the left, Nazi, fascist, rapist, pedophile protectors, you see that, right? Genocidal maniac, whatever it is that they use. There's a straight line between that and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the attempts on President Trump. It's pretty easy to see because, hey, they believe that. The left is detached from reality. They believe, many of them, not all of them, not all, that you're a Nazi. They believe that you're a fascist. They believe that you would commit genocide against trans people. Many people believe that about Charlie Kirk. Well, put yourself in a world where you 100% know beyond any shadow of a doubt that your neighbor is a Nazi who is killing trans people. You'd probably stop them too. That's where these people are. So we know that. But that brings me to the Marxist right. This is why I say something bad is going to happen. I have never seen this in my lifetime. Look, wherever you line up on Erica Kirk, the optics or decisions made as far as the organization TPUSA, that's beside the point. The gleeful celebration and mocking the pain of a widow, and I don't use the term trauma the way that other people use it. It's traumatic. I had a bad boyfriend. No. Probably had to watch her husband be murdered hundreds of times and answer questions and identify the body. And I would imagine doesn't know which way is up emotionally and probably won't for a while now. People going out of their way to attack, mock, and specifically the pain of the widow used as a tool. I don't mean like O.J. Simpson jokes about it because everyone kind of knew that he did it and it's a joke on a late night show. I mean, if you go on social media, oh, is your husband dead? Cry about it, husband killer, and to the tune of hundreds of thousands of posts and millions of views and likes and retweets. It's a level of evil and demonic, I don't know how else to describe it, that is actually detached from reality. Because people will then respond, well, you know what, that husband offer. Someone said this when I responded. That husband offer deserves it. Are you sure about that? That's how people justify the kind of behavior we're seeing. Yeah, that person who killed her, she deserves it. You better have some really, really solid evidence to go after a widow and mock the pain of losing a husband publicly, repeatedly, if you're going to do that. And I haven't seen any evidence of it. But people live in a world, these same people believe, you guys need to be aware of this. When we talk about the fracturing of the right, I'm not talking about policy disagreements on marginal tax codes or even the level of foreign intervention. I'm talking about there is a contingency of people who claim to be on the right, that we have an administration that is protecting, abetting, supporting pedophiles, and actively sacrificed Charlie Kirk with a complicit TPUSA and Erica Kirk. They believe that 100%. And if you say, hold on a second, maybe that's not correct, let's walk through the evidence, they believe 100% that you are paid for, usually by Israel, to say that. So let me ask you this. When I say something bad is going to happen, what would you do if you genuinely 100% believed that a man was assassinated by his wife, organization, or the administration, or a foreign government, and that all of the people telling you otherwise want to send your children to die, want to shed your children's blood for Israel? There are many, many thousands of people who believe that. Just like the left believes that you're a Nazi and a fascist and a rape supporter. I have never seen this. And I can tell you that I have sat across from enough people. You know, I do have that luxury, a privilege of having done Change My Mind and having done cable news for a long time. I've sat across from enough people where I've seen people who maybe haven't thought of this, and I'm maybe informing them or enlightening them with some new information, and we can have a conversation. And I also am able to identify the difference between them and people who hate me, but kind of want to get one over on me, make a point that maybe I haven't thought of, score some points, but still kind of accept those terms. And I've also sat across from people who have either told me, or I'm very intensely aware, not only wouldn't care if I lived or died, but would gladly pull the trigger if they can get away from it. And I see that same mindset, I see that same behavior posture way more than I'm comfortable with. And no, this is not me saying that people need to be silenced and you can't express opinions. I am just saying that once upon a time, mocking specifically the pain of a widow who just lost her husband was something that would be considered impermissible within the bounds of decency and required a serious amount of proof to justify. That doesn't seem to be a part of the equation with a certain contingency right now. And so you can mark this, unless something changes, something bad is going to happen. And I've been saying that this last week, and I pray to God that I'm wrong. I genuinely do. I'm just sounding the alarm because I have a platform, and hopefully some of you guys will listen. Hopefully you can talk with these people who are in your life and maybe talk them away from the ledge a little bit, try and reason. But I think that you may not be acting in some of these cases. People who believe all of that wholesale, not people who have questions, not people who have opinions, people who believe wholesale that Group A, usually Erica Kirk, TPUSA, the Trump administration, have sacrificed, murdered Charlie Kirk, and anyone who tries to tell you that that may not be the case and wait for evidence is in fact a psyop who wants your children to die for Israel. People who believe that and can be told nothing to the contrary, be very careful. Be very careful, because that can be a dangerous person. And we see it to whatever degree right now. We have this video. I don't know if we're...
So yeah, he says Marxist right, and obviously, you know, it's like people are trying to come up with a term to encapsulate this, and it's actually a similar point to one that I've made. I've said that this particular contingent of people that he's talking about, these resentful, these people who are totally overcome with resentment, but masquerade as maybe even have their own like self-perception that they're, you know, based right-wing, whatever. They're communists. This is the spirit of revolutionary communism. I'm not making an economic argument. I'm not making I don't care what political beliefs they would ascribe if they were to like write down a list of here's my favorite things I've thought about today. I'm talking about the spirit that animates them. It is that same bloodthirsty revolutionary communist spirit. It's the same spirit that gleefully liquidated the kulaks. I don't care what your political beliefs are. I'm talking about the spirit that animates you. And to say it again, as Jason said, the problem with the vengeful son is that it's gonna feel good. So in the same way that no one has a problem with, I mean, there are the autists who will even have a problem with calling them the Marxist left, but you understand what it means. When someone says the Marxist left, you understand what they're saying. That they're animated by this particular spirit. You're describing like a category of degenerate resentfuls. And they just so happen to have a political prescription that includes all these historically like left-wing tenets. But politics, like, policies are a tool. They're a tool that can be wielded by anyone. What I care about is the actual spirit behind them. What's actually motivating them. There are economic policies that might be called left-wing that I am in full-throated support of. The policy themselves, the policy itself, stripped out and abstracted, is not left-wing or right-wing. It's the implementation of it. And we're quickly arriving at a point where left-wing and right-wing is just not going to be a useful differentiator anymore. This spirit of resentment that animates the people, that as he laid it out, you have the Marxist left who says punch a Nazi because you're an evil fascist. It's good to execute political violence upon you. That same spirit transplants some of the terms, and it's that same spirit that motivates the people who say that Erica Kirk was involved in planning the gruesome public assassination of her husband, and the Trump administration is covering it up because they're bought and paid for by the nation of Israel, and they're coming to take your kids away. This is a call to political violence. And I'm not talking like, oh, base, justified political violence. No, I'm talking revolutionary, flip shit over, burn it down, mass murder people until we've reset the table and maybe we'll be in power at the end of that. You know what happens is those revolutionaries are never the ones who are actually in power later on. They're always the useful idiots who are the first ones up against the wall. So they're not just pathetic and evil, they're also retarded. They're the definition of useful idiots. Yes, Raymond Harmon, there is not horseshoe theory. It's value alignments that either build or destroy things. Exactly. The spirit that is animating the people who are pushing these, I'll say it, conspiracy theories about Israel and Erica Kirk and TPUSA and the Trump administration and all of this. These are not people of good character. These are not people who are acting out their, just acting out of like good faith virtue. They're resentful, revolutionary communists. And I don't care what label they want to place on themselves. They have the spirit of communists. They have a particular revolutionary spirit, ironically enough. It turns out when you worship something and direct all of your attention and focus on it and reduce every single matter in the world to that same issue, you become possessed by that issue, by that spirit. And hopefully the people who are listening to this have sufficient IQ to not hear this message as, to not do the very thing that this is directed at, and hear this message as no, actually, there is no problem with the God's chosen people and their influence on American government. You've got it. I beg of you. You have to have a level of IQ sufficient enough. If you're going to be around here, if you're going to involve and interact and not just be shunned away as a fucking retard, you have to be able to hold these thoughts in your head at the same time. You can recognize the problems with our favorite Middle Eastern democracy while also not spiraling off into bloodthirsty revolutionary communism.
We're allowed to run this on YouTube. This is breaking as we go live. Jewish neighborhood, I guess it's Golders Green in London. The images you're about to see are disturbing. I have no information on the attacker. Willing to bet he probably believed that all Jewish people are evil. There's a cabal of pedophile rape apologists. Probably believed quite a bit of this. I don't know the facts, but I'd be willing to bet that he's believed quite a few pieces of propaganda out there because he deliberately sought out, chased down, and stabbed Jewish people with no other motivation as far as we know at this point. Here's a video. Something bad is going to happen. Glad to see those UK beat cops grow a spine at least.
Now, I saw this video, this one right here, of the cops beating the shit out of this guy. And the most horrifying thing is that all the replies in it was just a bunch of women. But all the replies were like, "Oh, this is horrifying. How can you treat that guy that way? This is over the top. I understand he was just walking around stabbing people, but how could you treat him that way?" This is, again, it's like the same category of person. I'm sure they mean well. I'm sure deep in their heart of hearts, they think that they're the good guys and they're the ones who are advocating for the betterment of civilization. No. If you are advocating a worldview that leads to people walking around randomly stabbing people in the street, you are not an advocate of civilization. You're not the good guy. You are the baddie. Just the same. If you see the guy who is walking around stabbing people in the street, and he's being pummeled by police officers, and you're like, "Oh, that's unjust," you are an agent of chaos. You are an enemy of civilization.
Something bad is going to happen. Something bad has happened. I think more will happen. And to be clear, this is the attack that I thought you were pro-free speech. I am. The solution to bad speech is more speech. Absolutely. When there is some argument to be had in good faith, you cannot respond to bad speech or inaccurate speech with better or accurate speech if you know the inevitable comeback is, "You're paid to say that." Every single one of you who has an opinion, regardless as to the degree of informedness, must be a paid psyop, and everyone else, don't believe any word they say for a second. Well, guess what? That's poisoning the well, and good speech can no longer be an antidote to bad speech. So I'm not saying...
Poisoning the well, you say? Where does that term come from? Poisoning the well. You were just paid by Israel. Anybody who's doing that, you are not an agent of order and civilization. You're an agent of chaos and destruction.
Saying that no one should be able to speak, everyone should, but really be aware and mark the people who use that tactic.
Yes.
Anyone who says, "Folks who disagree with me are paid by X," or "they are only saying it because of Y," that's a dangerous person. That's not a person who wants to have a conversation in good faith, and it's probably not one you should trust as a source of information.
Yes. Exactly that. Ninja Space says, "This is the men's happy center light up when women empathy center does." That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think of that. That's very good. Yeah. The every man who watched that video had his pleasure center just turn fucking like radioactive, glowing like a motherfucker. And I'm sure any of our favorite Labian Foids is they're the exceptions to the rule. Don't worry. We recognize you guys are the exceptions to the rule. Scott Greer here has a great post now along the same lines. It was once thought conspiracy theories help erode support for the status quo and threaten the powers that be, even if they were completely wrong. But it's not true anymore. I would say it never was true, but it's not true anymore. As we see with popular speculation about the latest Trump shooter, this stuff leads more to harmless crankery the regime is fine with. Harmless cranks. This is from the Substack, highly respected by the patriot Scott Greer. The popularity of conspiracy theories don't threaten the prevailing order. It was a big week for conspiracy theorists. First, the Justice Department announced its lawsuit against the Southern Poverty Law Center for funding right-wing informants. This inspired claims that the group created the alt-right to hurt the rest of the right. Second, a crazed leftist tried to kill President Trump, which prompted liberals and right-wingers to assert it was a false flag. This notion instantly gained traction online and seemed to get more notice than the official narrative. Both events illustrate how popular conspiratorial thinking is in America. Some may think this is a good thing. If more people question everything, that creates more grounds to challenge the status quo and push for radical change. Or so it's claimed. But the spread of conspiracy theories isn't really doing that. It functions as entertainment rather than instigation. People may think everything is a false flag, but it doesn't change anything about how they live their lives or what they do politically. It just makes the news more fun. Conspiracies do have a real effect on those folks who are already hyper-partisan, particularly right-wingers. Instead of creating a narrative to rally people to their cause, these theories serve to encourage paranoia, division, helplessness, and even support for their enemies. These notions undermine the right and its ability to create political change. It's easy to see this play out when much of the right finds ways to get mad at the DOJ for suing the SPLC while claiming the president stages false flag assassination attempts. These aren't signs of a movement turning conspiracy theories into political action. They reveal an entertainment structure dedicated to clicks and unrestrained resentment. It's no wonder that cheering on the Democrats is now a favorite political option for certain corners of the right. The effects of popular conspiratorialism aid the liberal establishment and retard the right. It's the true harmless persuasion. The DOJ's lawsuit is a major win for the right. Conservatives are finally using state power to go after one of the worst leftist groups in the world. The SPLC deserves to have the skeletons in its closet uncovered. Even if the group wins the case, the cost and embarrassment of it will permanently damage its reputation and put others on notice. Most of the right was thrilled at the news, but maybe not for the best reasons. The DOJ alleges the SPLC paid big money to prominent white nationalists, including nearly $300,000 to a Charlottesville rally organizer. This allowed conspiracy theories to run wild and encouraged right-wingers to accuse rivals of working for the enemy. Many conservatives now believe the whole alt-right was an SPLC op to discredit the rest of the right. Others disagreed and offered their own competing op narratives. Some claim the SPLC planned Charlottesville to tarnish the alt-right. Others argue the lawsuit is a MAGA op to sully the good name of white nationalism. A curious argument to say the least. The truth is that there is no op here. The alt-right was not the creation of the SPLC. This informant was not one of its chief leaders. Its leaders decided on the Unite the Right rally on their own. The informant didn't plant the idea, nor was he responsible for what happened. Genuine stupidity, rather than intentional subversion, explains the thought process behind the rally. And that's the thing. The rally was genuinely stupid, which opened up the opportunity for the informant and everything that followed after that. That should be the proper recognition in retrospect here. Not, hey, they're threatening our ability to, they're prosecuting our enemies as actually a secret ploy to threaten our ability to go be genuinely stupid in public in the future. But the op theory was too good for conservatives to pass up. It's long been a popular meme for conservatives to think any white nationalist march is an FBI meetup. This story was catnip for influencers who believe in this idea. There's, of course, plenty of evidence that feds and Antifa infiltrate these groups, but that's different from thinking the FBI or the SPLC created them simply to hurt conservatives or whatever. As someone who has a book on the alt-right coming out, this notion is really stupid and doesn't address how this movement emerged in the wake of conservatism's failures. It's a convenient explanation to entertain your audience and pretend anyone who disagrees with you is an op. A similar self-serving dynamic operated with the other theories. Claiming the informant vindicates the alt-right allows its leaders to think the rally was a great idea, and it only went bad thanks to this one guy. That's delusional. Even more delusional are those white nationalists who think the lawsuit is bad because it's a MAGA op designed to besmirch their movement as an SPLC op. This allows them to indulge in their all-consuming anti-Trumpism and think everything the president does is a betrayal. It demonstrates how resentment toward others on the right motivates some more than hostility toward the left. That is a bar right there. Resentment toward others on the right motivating some more than hostility toward the left. A proper response would be to praise the DOJ for going after a powerful leftist group and to encourage the administration to do more like this. But conspiratorialism proved too strong and animated much of the right's response. As a result, people began to believe utter nonsense and even convinced themselves to be angry over the feds cracking down on their enemies. The false flag assassin accusations are even more egregious. It's pure slop to get engagement on X and TikTok. There's zero evidence it was a setup. It also imagines that there are no crazy leftists who would be willing to kill Trump, a strange thing to believe considering the amount of support Tyler Robinson and Trump's previous wannabe assassins received. Isn't it interesting how that ends up working out? You say it was a false flag because everything about Trump has to be about betraying us, and therefore you begin obscuring the fact that there are crazy leftists who are not only willing to kill Trump, but are willing to kill any of us at the drop of a hat. But this here is a follow-on from everything that happened with Tyler Robinson. And with the whole Erica Kirk, TPUSA, all of that. But with Trump's declining support online, it's apparently necessary to believe that no one would ever try to assassinate him. It's all an op to bamboozle people into backing Trump. Belief in the false flag creates solidarity with resistance libtards and reinforces the impression that a good chunk of the online right is just alt MSNBC. There's nothing gained for the right by pretending the left is incapable of carrying out assassinations and other violence against its enemies. It exonerates our foes and makes us stand in solidarity with them, all because we can't resist idiotic conspiracy theories. At least for liberals, the false flag theory has utility. It gives them a reason not to sympathize with the president and claim he made it all up to gain support. It's brain rot, but you can see how it works in their favor. Rarely do conspiracy theories on the right have this effect. There's no chance of these notions causing some kind of mass revolt. They sow division on the right and encourage some right-wingers to want Democrats to take power again. This hardly threatens the status quo. In fact, it reinforces it. Sam Francis famously called neoconservatism the harmless persuasion. The term applies even more to conspiratorialism. People are encouraged to speculate about false flags, UFOs, Fed ops, elaborate plots, and other fantastical ideas because it leads to little practical change. It's just entertainment for many people and doesn't lead them to organize or do anything in the real world. If anything, it makes them think all politics is fake and they're better off doing nothing. For the right, it has even more pernicious effects. It divides regime opposition and makes right-wingers retarded. But the influencer economy is dependent on conspiracy theories. They're pumped out incessantly because it's what the audience wants. They make for good entertainment, but little else. So the people who are constantly trafficking in these things, then, you can see that they're actually in a reactive posture to their audience. They may not realize it subconsciously, or they may not realize it consciously, but subconsciously, they have subordinated themselves to their audience. They're not leading their audience, they're following it. Cranks who believe everything is a false flag and their own side is completely compromised pose no threat. They're far too disagreeable and paranoid to organize. They're too busy chasing the truth about historic events and news items to affect change. Kookery may imagine the worst things about those in charge, but those same notions negate any ability to challenge the powers that be. I think this is a good observation here. It's not even that he's pre-supping the people. The bad thing about the kookery is that even if you grant the kookery its own terms, you still wind up in a worse place because the effect of the kookery is negating an ability to challenge the powers that be. It's just masturbatory. And any attempt to revert back into the debate about the kookery is obscuring that fact. I don't care about the terms of the kookery. The effect of the kookery is that it has a neutering effect to our actual goals. It can be a great thing if people are skeptical of official narratives, if it leads them to truth and a serious desire to change things in the right direction. But that's not how conspiratorialism functions on the right at the moment. It simply persuades people to embrace every far-fetched idea to maximize their entertainment or to satisfy their petty grievances. From Charlie Kirk theories to the latest false flag accusations, it functions to undermine our own side and makes us equivalent to homeless schizophrenics. It's the real harmless persuasion. a Scott Greer patriot banger. Now, the time has arrived. Lord Breezy, we've got a fantastic patriot post quoting a great post from Kaiser Lowengram. So I'm going to read. Now, I got the alert from the Pseudoman that we have another one fresh off the presses here. Matt Walsh reacting to Kaiser's post. So let's see if I can make this clear. Kaiser makes a post. Matt Walsh reads it and reacts to it. Our propagandist creates some propaganda content around it, makes a video out of it, and Lord Breezy has a post, quote tweeting it, reacting to it. Patriotception. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read Lord Breezy's post, but I'm going to save Kaiser's because I haven't seen Suda's video yet, so I don't know. I don't want to cover the ground multiple times. So at Reactionary Phil, go follow the man, our great poster. He says, this is a few months old at this point, Kaiser's post, and I'd like to use it to illustrate some points. There are many that would like to deflect from America being its own people because they psychologically concede America's geopolitical domination of their feckless leadership. They cannot suffer the thought that the force that surpasses anything they can collectively muster belongs to the average American. There is baked in classic resentment. America couldn't be if not for the British? Sure. Much like their empire would never had been if not for the Normans. Not for the Scandinavian invaders of Alfred's time. Not for Britannia. Not for the Roman Empire. And in that sense, to be British means to be Italian, right? All peoples come from others and break off at significant points in history. Many of you still believe in the end of history and all categories of people were placed in stasis. Canadians never sought to be a people. The kingdoms of the Isles never sought to be a single entity. That's never the point. People just are. They are an identifiable reality, sometimes easier pointed out by those that don't belong to it. The single great this is the line right here. The single greatest act of submission to the gay, the global American empire. It's neither global nor American nor an empire. Anyways, the single greatest act of submission to the gay is this performative anti-Americanism. You're not allowed to resent any other people other than yourself because you have been thoroughly buck-broken by modernity. You are dying because you forfeit vitality and agency every day. God did not call you spectators. He called you fishers and shepherds of men to redeem the nations. Americans are the descendants of a wild and fringe subset of mostly Protestant Western Europeans. Everything to the max. These groups of people were already from almost ethnic subsets within their own origins. They were the ne'er-do-wells. And their sons got into a wacky race to the moon, ostensibly over the freeness of Eastern markets, and they won. Everybody knows what an American is and that they don't belong to it. The more you keep denying my people's legitimacy, the more you lose your own people and legitimacy. You are speaking as an enemy. You are just a liberal. Great post, Kaiser. American must be understood as its own ethnos. So here we go. Now, we must wave.
The United States of America. The United States of America have appointed me Minister Plenipotentiary to Your Majesty. I think myself more fortunate than all of my fellow citizens in having the distinguishing honor to be the first to stand in Your Majesty's presence in a diplomatic character. I shall esteem myself the happiest of men if I can be instrumental in restoring the confidence and affection, or in better words, the good old nature and the good old humor between peoples who, though separated by an ocean and under different governments, have the same language, similar religion, and kindred blood.
Quote, who, though separated by an ocean and under different governments, have the same language, a similar religion, and kindred blood. Kindred blood. That's controversial. You know, if he had heard that line today, Jake Tapper would accuse John Adams of being a Nazi. I mean, it's not even a joke. That's what he would say. The women of The View would never recover. But it was an uncontroversial line when John Adams said it, and it was an uncontroversial line when HBO made that miniseries in 2008. There was no controversy over that. Only in the last decade or so did it become outrageous to talk about the benefits of our shared heritage with the British and the Anglo-Saxons. And that brings up an important point. We talked about ethnicity earlier. Yes, we should recognize that we're the product of an Anglo-Saxon culture, and yes, we should recognize that this heritage is unique and valuable, but we should also recognize that we're not best defined as descendants of the Anglo-Saxons anymore. We're not solely defined that way. We are something distinct. We're Americans. We have our own identity. We don't have to define ourselves exclusively as the descendants of Germans or Britons or Irishmen or anyone else. Every nationality and ethnic group began when it achieved terminal velocity and became a distinct identity from the ones that preceded it. And Americans have reached that point. We are a distinct culture. We are a distinct nation. We are a distinct ethnicity.
Yes!
We have our own shared traditions and heritage, and none of it is captured, at least not fully, by describing us as Italian Americans or German Americans or Anglo-Saxons or anything else. We are Americans.
Patriot Matt.
This is a post on X that I want to highlight because it captures exactly this idea. Quote, America must be understood as its own ethnos. You're not a mutt. You're not English, Irish, French, Italian, Polish, Scottish, German, because you've got fractions and percents of each. You belong to your own ethnic group, unique to its continent, to this continent, distinct from all others. Theodore Roosevelt understood this well. Quote, the children and grandchildren of the men who came here from England, Ireland, Germany, France, Scandinavia, and the rest of Europe have become Americans, a new race with a new ethnic type. And they're no more Englishmen or Germans or Scandinavians, and the descendants of the Norman invaders of England are Frenchmen. The frontier conditions made a new race. The stern struggle with the wilderness and wild men welded together the descendants of many European stocks into one people, the American. Out of the crucible of the wilderness came a new ethnic type, hardy, self-reliant, democratic in instinct, and with a continent for its inheritance. And that's Teddy Roosevelt.
Absolute cinema. How can you ever doom? Incredible things are happening. Incredible things. We've got Matt Walsh talking about kindred blood, highlighting our guy posters. Fuck, I love this country so much. Paul Suda, you brilliant bastard. Lord Breezy, you patriot poster. Kaiser von Lohengram, you other patriot poster. Here's another one from him. My most clear, my most simple of missions of coming on and making an account, of writing essay after essay post on here, of working to grow and to have a platform, was to communicate this one simple fact. America was here before the Constitution was, and we descend from a particular people, a particular culture, and we should know this and be proud of it. As Living Dead said over here in the chat, if American is a distinct thing, then that means non-American is a distinct thing as well. I lost the chat here. I can't find it exactly, but it was something to that effect. Yeah, if Americans are a distinct thing, then that means there are things that are distinctly not American. I love my country. I love its history. I gave years of my life in service in the army. I sacrificed my health and well-being for it, and I did it under Biden mainly, and suffered those abuses. When I was removed from service, all I wanted to do was to continue to share the love I have for this great nation with others, and to try to just teach people the reality of who we are and where we came from, which so few know. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. I love writing. I love growing an audience, having people come away having learned something or had fun just reading what I write and put out. But I've also had to deal with left-wing smear campaigns from prominent individuals who strawman and caricature me as some absurd racist and use guilt by association tactics to try and cancel those who had the audacity just to have a conversation with me. Not only that, but I've simultaneously received an endless set of attacks from people on the right who try to claim I'm just some subversive, paid, I wish, operative and a Zog slave because I unapologetically love my country. This has even recently started to come from people who are supposed to be fraternal brothers, which hurts all the more. Never, though, never did I think I'd see the president in my lifetime acknowledge this truth and articulate so simply and so cleanly for the whole country to see. To just acknowledge something I've been fighting to have seen in the public for years now. That I've taken hits on, that I've fought tooth and nail over because I just want people to know and love the history of their own nation. America is not an idea. It's not just everyone. It is a very particular, very proud, very beautiful people who began in 1607 in Jamestown under the crown, and the moment they set foot on these shores, they were Americans. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mike, here in the shadows of monuments to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, honoring the British King might seem an ironic beginning to our celebration of 250 years of American independence. But in fact, no tribute could be more appropriate. Long before Americans had a nation or a constitution, we first had a culture, a character, and a creed. Before we ever proclaimed our independence, Americans carried within us the rarest of gifts, moral courage, and it came from a small but mighty kingdom from across the sea. For nearly 2 centuries before the Revolution, this land was settled and forged by men, women, who bore in their souls the blood and noble spirit of the British. Here on a wild and untamed continent, they set loose the ancient English love of liberty and the Great Britain's distinctive sense of glory, destiny, and pride. And that's what it is, glory, destiny, and pride.
So true, Mr. President.
The American patriots who pledged their lives to independence in 1776 were the heirs to this majestic inheritance. Their veins ran with Anglo-Saxon courage. Their hearts beat with an English faith in standing firm for what is right, good, and true. In recent years, we've often heard it said that America is merely an idea, but the cause of freedom did not simply appear as an intellectual invention of 1776. The American founding was the culmination of hundreds of years of thought, struggle, sweat, blood, and sacrifice on both sides of the Atlantic. Fate drew a long arc from the meadow at Runnymede to the streets of Philadelphia that ran through the lives of people born and bred on the British code that no man should be denied either justice or right. American patriots today can sing "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty," only because our colonial ancestors first sang, "God save the King." Here
I could just sit there and just listen to that forever. Kate says Trump is doing an executive order signing now, wondering what for. Well, I guess we'll have to find that out tomorrow. I just want to say, T-Con here said, I used to tear up during the anthem baseball games, and I let the Jews take that away from me for a while. Never again. So true. What a great atrocity that was. Never again. That's a special phrase. We need to appropriate that phrase specifically for this particular phenomenon where we let the Jews take our patriotism away from us. Never again. Theodore Dragonsbane says, I'm an American. I'm descended from the German forests and the British Isles. I'm a man of the true West, the still Wild West, the Commonwealth of Idaho, and the great empire of America. I am an American. Here I stand. Here I'll stay. For this I'll fight. Patriot spotted. So many patriots in the chat, man. I love every single one of you. And I now have to ask I'm going to be giving away a very, very important life hack here. And I'm going to have to ask all of our, all the Foitriots to step away for a moment. You guys aren't allowed to listen. I've got a 2-minute and 11-second clip here. This is a little bit of important game for our young patriots, and we got to make sure the women don't hear this. Okay, so no girls allowed. Yeah, the show is over. Okay, just imagine that Hulk is playing right now. The show's over, ladies. We love you. It's time for you to step aside while the boys have a little bit of boys talk here from Tucker Carlson.
And the last thing I will say is as you're getting married, like your wedding's in next month.
Yeah, on the 10th.
Okay, so she's calling you all the time with like, hey, I've got all these decisions. Like, what color do you want the napkins? How many people should be in the pictures? This is happening to you, I know for a fact. I haven't talked to her, but I already know this.
You're a prophet.
And I am a prophet. And I've been around a few weddings. So your instinct is always going to be, baby, you got this. I trust you. You got this. You make the decision. You're communicating to her, I have total faith in you. I know you'll do the right thing. You're going to be a great wife, great mother, great at running our household. She hears from you. That's what you're thinking when you say that, because I know you've said that for a fact, because I've been listening to your calls. She is thinking, he doesn't care. He's not interested. Don't say that. What you say is, she said, should we have orange or pink napkins? Say pink, obviously. She'll go, well, I like the orange. And you say, that's absolutely right, orange. We need orange napkins. We don't want pink napkins. We want orange napkins. How many people should be at wedding pictures? You'll say 15. She'll be like, well, I wanted 12. Yeah, that's right, 12. She wants you to engage. She wants you to make the decision when, in fact, she's really making the decision. You'll have this problem with dinner. Let's go to dinner Friday night. Where do you want to go? And you'll be like, wherever you want to go, baby. Whatever you want. And she'll hear, he doesn't care about going to dinner with me. You say, I want to go to the Italian place. She'll say, I hate Italian. I want to go Chinese. And you say to her, Italian's disgusting. We're going to the Chinese place.
I like that.
It's real. It's the most real thing. And you will save so much sadness and drama in your household. She'll totally relax and be like, he's got this. Even though you just repeated her choice back to her. No, for real.
Yeah.
And that's basically marriage in a sentence. You're repeating her choice back to her as a decision.
Wow.
But if you allow her to make the decision, she doesn't want to make the decision. She wants you to make the decision. If you just say you make the decision, all she hears is he doesn't care. He's thinking about golf.
Wow. He's thinking about golf.
Write this on your arm, dude. This is important.
I really appreciate that. I think it's
I mean it.
Powerful dad wisdom right there. Ron Dodson said, this is so simple, so good, and so right. Now, fortunately, none of the women listen to this at all. So they're not going to know. Boys, you have been empowered. Go forward. Use this wisdom wisely. It is, you're going to do this dance for your entire life. That's why we have the women, right? That's why the women have been provided to us by our Lord to hone us, to refine us, to present us constantly with contradictions and paradoxes, to keep us on our toes. All right, well, we have, we got I think our total is at like 535 right now for some of the tips that didn't actually add to the goal. So we are going to do a drawing. Now, you guys are going to have to bear with me for a moment here while we've had some new people who've signed up, and it's not automatically adding people to the spreadsheet properly. So I just got to do a little housekeeping here, and then we are going to do a drawing. So if any of you are planning on sending in a tip now, excuse me, now is the time to do it. as I am getting this prepared here, I'm going to say $55. We'll say 55. Where'd it go? Is it here? Okay, there we go. So let me copy these names here. No private information revealed. And paste. There we go. And then there's one of these that I know for certain that I need to remove. Let me just double check and make sure there's no other double names in this one. Okay, so this one right here must go because that is a doubled up. Only one per person. One entry per person. So we have got 36 names total, and I don't see any other duplicates. So let me pull this over onto the screen and share the screen. And let us have a drawing. Oops. Fat fingers. So 1 and 36 leaves us with 10. Who is 10? Straight Buster! Straight Buster, Patriot, getting paid today. $55 coming your way. I know how to get a hold of you, buddy. Congratulations to Straight Buster on his great Patriot victory today. What a Thursday. What a day for Patriots. Incredible. Incredible scenes. All right, guys. Well, I'll be shooting you a message as soon as I'm done. And Amy put all the gay flags in there. His Straight Buster is a patriot. Oh, man, I love doing this. I love coming here, doing the show. Thank you guys for funding this, allowing me to come here and entertain you guys and bring you as many white pills as I can find. It is Thursday. That means tomorrow we've got one more regular lab for the week, and then Saturday we will have the Pseudo Wave. The man I saw he ducked out a little earlier to go finish, head back into the studio and tinker away and produce some wonderful propaganda for us. So make sure you guys show up on Saturday afternoon for that. Please do follow me on X at KingPilled. You can also follow the t.me/KingPilled would be the Telegram channel if you want to get alerts for when I'm going live. Please share the show. Share it around. It'll be posted. It's on YouTube. It's on Substack. It's on Rumble. It's on X. It's on Kick. And yeah, thanks for keeping us not homeless for another month. We deeply appreciate you guys for your incredible, insane generosity. And you should go over to kingpilled.com and you should sign up, join the KingPilled Discord so that you can participate in the voice chat tomorrow evening. Friday evening voice chats in the KingPilled Discord. Never know what we're going to talk about, but it's nearly always an adventure of some sort. And we have a grand old time. So appreciate all of you guys. Have yourselves a great rest of your Patriot Thursday. And I will see you tomorrow. Until then, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania